Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Salty Fish Mentor. All my students are world-destroying genius. Chapter 81. Wang Dakin responded in a buzzing voice without even turning his head. He was very fast and disappeared directly at the door of the classroom. After seeing this scene, Huang Dongdong sighed softly. Regardless of the IQ of the big fool, his execution ability is absolutely impeccable. Speaking of which, I am looking forward to the big fool's appearance when he comes back with a hairless head. Thinking of this, Huang Dongdong laughed. But just when Huang Dongdong was gloating, suddenly, a student in the class stood up. Hey, why do I feel like I can't hold my urine recently? I really need to quit. The student muttered to himself and walked slowly to the door. The next second after leaving the classroom, this classmate ran directly, and the direction he left was exactly the same as Wang Dakin's. After this classmate left, another classmate stood up. While walking, he touched his hair and said to himself, "My hair has grown long, it's time for Hudelu to give me a fashionable hairstyle." Similarly, the next second after leaving the classroom, he ran directly towards Wang Dakin. Followed by 1, 2, 3, 4. Finally, even the whole class of students all rushed out of the classroom in a hurry, scrambling to chase after Wang Dakin. Even the door frame was slightly deformed by the squeeze. In an instant, the classroom, which was originally a little noisy, suddenly only Huang Dongdong and Lan Moyan were left. What are they doing? Huang Dongdong was a little dazed. Lan Moyan was still concise. What do you think? Not really. Quote. Huang Dongdong muttered to himself, and the expression on his face was uglier than crying. He just wanted to deceive Wang Dakin. Lan Moyan looked at his nominal junior brother with a smile on his face. You're in trouble. Huang Dongdong shuddered when he heard Lan Moyan's words. With one sentence, the whole class had bald heads. How should he explain to Teacher Yi when he comes back? At this moment, Yi Ran couldn't care about the fact that he was about to take charge of Shaolin Temple. He was walking quickly on the way to the principal's office, while thinking repolishing the script. Principal, this has a really big impact on me. Yi Ran shook his head. Not very good, too simple, not tragic enough, the old man doesn't resonate. Principal, this incident has had a great impact on my soul, and my skills have gone astray. Yi Ran shook his head again. No, tragic without emotion, the old man may not like it. Principal, think about it, I am willing to sacrifice my life for the school, but who has ever been stabbed in the back by their own people and died? In the principal's office, Bai Shu looked at the glowing magic ball in front of him with a complicated expression, because in this magic ball, it was the scene of Yi Ran practicing his words while walking towards the office. Bai Shu blew his beard angrily. It's only been a few days. You little brat, are you here to ask for money again? But Bai Shu also knew that he was somewhat in the wrong. After all, two extraordinary people could sneak into a class and pretend to be a teacher and a student. In the Magic City High Martial Arts Academy, how could it be possible without him? Bai Shu nodded. So there is a reason for every grievance, and there is nothing wrong with Yi Ran looking for him. Thinking of this, Bai Shu rubbed his temples helplessly. What kind of nonsense is this? I have to go to the education department and the military department to ask for some mental damage compensation. But now, I'd better hide in advance. It just so happens that my previous idea of the space magic weapon has not been refined yet. Then go to the forging room. Bai Shu has a strong mobility. He just snapped his fingers lightly and disappeared on the spot. Yi Ran came to the door of the principal's office, adjusted his breathing, thought for a moment, deliberately ruffled his hair, and his whole expression looked like he was hit, listless. Life is like a play, it all depends on acting. Bang, 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 bang. After Yi Ran knocked on the door 3 or 4 times in a row, ripples began to appear on the door of the principal's office. A huge turtle head stretched out from the void. The turtle head was all black, glowing in the sunlight. This turtle is very human, looking at Yi Ran in front of him with an impatient face. Actually speaking human language. Knock, 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 what are you knocking? He's out, go somewhere else to have fun. Yi Ran looked at the turtle head sticking out of the void, somewhat surprised, because the system has listed the information of this old turtle. Duobao, Shang, 10,002 years old. Diamond level. Void black turtle S level. Innate magical power. Power of space. Advantages. Top affinity with space laws, top escape ability, ignore any restrictions, top treasure search ability. Disadvantages. Not good at fighting, does not like to practice, likes to sleep, obsessed with ancient history of cultivation, likes to listen to flattery, and is in unbearable pain when the shell is attached to the void barnacle. Optimization suggestions. Good guy. S-level talent, more than 10,000 years. Only diamond level. It seems that this turtle really doesn't practice at all, and relies on killing time to gain experience. And what kind of shortcomings does this turtle have when it is obsessed with ancient Taoist legends? Although there are a lot of shortcomings, but the advantages and attributes of this turtle. Looking at the advantages and attributes of the void black turtle, Yiran's eyes have already lit up. What a perfect treasure hunting tool. With this precious magic beast, why do you still ask the principal for mental damage compensation? Does the principal know in advance that he is coming, so this is the principal's compensation to himself? It is better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. Principal, you are so kind. Thinking of this, Yiran's mouth corners slightly raised. This void black turtle named Duobao, looking at Yiran's smile, felt a little hairy, and was about to turn around and leave on the spot. But before he could cancel the void ripples, a voice suddenly came from behind. Daoyu, please stay. Jinling. In the ancient ancestral hall that was as dark as ink, a middle-aged man sat on the armchair with his eyes closed to rest. This man was the current head of the Yi family. That is, Yi Ran's father, Yi Tiancheng. Suddenly, an inky pattern appeared on the ground of the ancestral hall. From the pattern, a figure emerged. When the figure solidified, it was an old man. Yi Tiancheng looked up at the old man and asked, "Fourth uncle, where are the third old man?" The corner of the old man's mouth a bitter smile appeared. "Master, the third brother deceived us all. He had already run away before you put him under house arrest." Then, he handed a letter to Yi Tiancheng. "This is the letter he left before he left home." Yi Tiancheng remained silent and silently opened the letter. The handwriting on it was flamboyant. "Brother, you are too cowardly. You always say that you should keep a low profile and not do too much. Now people are ready to kill our youngest son, and you are still nagging and preaching. Do you really rely on outsiders? If you don't save the youngest son, I will. I can't write any more, turn to the back." Yi Tiancheng looked at the letter, his face was cold, and he turned the letter paper. "You turn it over when I ask you to. How can you be the master of the family without any opinion? If you can't be the master of the family, give it to me when I come back." At this moment, Yi Tiancheng's veins popped up, and the letter paper was crushed to pieces. Those who can read this should have a good impression of this book. It is indeed a bit boring to write a book by myself. If you don't mind, let's discuss and exchange ideas together. Maybe I can integrate some good ideas into it. Love you. The old man said, "Master, please be patient. The third brother has a bad temper." Quote. The old man beside him hurriedly comforted him. He knew without thinking that the third brother had not held back in the letter. "I'm fine." Yi Tiancheng looked normal, but looking at the floor that had been twisted under his feet, it seemed that he was not as relaxed as he said. "Master, the third brother is also in the first echelon among the diamond level. With him here, I think there is a guarantee." The old man continued to comfort the master. Yi Tiancheng shook his head. "Things are a little more complicated than expected." Yi Tiancheng said while twisting his fingers. He shredded the letter paper, seemingly thinking about something. Then, Yi Tiancheng seemed to have made up his mind and said, "Notify Xiaoguo, he will be needed to cover the bottom line when the time comes." After hearing this, the old man was slightly startled. "Master, are you going to activate this line?" Yi Tiancheng nodded, with a deep look in his eyes. "Plans cannot keep up with changes. That rebellious son is much more capable than I thought." Hearing what the master said, the old man looked a little serious. "Master, I will do it now." After saying this, the old man's figure turned black again and sank into the magic circle. The hall fell into silence again. Yi Tiancheng sat on the armchair, his eyes flashing with brilliance. The python swallowed the dragon. It will not be so soon. Modu High Martial Arts College. At the door of the principal's office, The void black turtle, which was a little frightened by Yiran's stare. After Yiran said, "Daoyu, please stay," it stopped for some reason. Under the turtle's head, it actually stretched out two thick turtle legs, and bowed in a proper manner. "May I ask, Daoyu, why did you stop me?" Hearing the void black turtle speak in such an ancient tone, Yiran's mouth corners slightly raised. The system really didn't lie to me. This turtle was actually obsessed with the ancient legend of cultivation. This hobby is indeed unique. Yiran also followed the void black turtle and cupped his hands. "I am really rude, but I saw that you were full of rosy clouds and extraordinary heroic spirit. You are a turtle with great luck. I just wanted to admire you and blurted it out." Hearing Yiran's polite words, the void black turtle was overjoyed. Looking at Yiran, his expression became much kinder and he cupped his tortoise paws modestly. "You are too kind, my friend. I am just one of the millions of innate creatures. I can't say I have great luck." Yiran waved his hands. "Don't underestimate yourself, my friend. I am not talented, but I am good at judging people's fortune. I saw that your forehead is full, your face is like a crown of jade, your nose is like a hanging gallbladder, your face is radiant, and you are majestic. You are definitely a rare talent. I think Daoyu's background is not ordinary." As he said, Yiran pretended to count with his fingers, looked at his fingers with a little surprise, and then looked at the void black turtle in surprise. "Daoyu, is your name Duobao?" Quote. The void black turtle's green bean-sized eyes widened for a moment, then nodded seriously and blurted out, "Daoyu, how do you know?" Quote. "How do I know? I saw the system know." Of course, this is what Yiran thought in his heart, and of course he couldn't say it openly. After hearing what the void black turtle said, Yiran put away his fingers as if he had suddenly realized something. No wonder, no wonder. This sentence directly aroused the curiosity of the void black turtle. "Daoyu, what did you calculate?" Quote. Yiran looked at the void black turtle and was about to say something, but he took it back when it was on his lips. He shook his head helplessly. The secret of heaven cannot be revealed. Yiran pulled the void black turtle 2 or 3 times and directly hooked it into a crescent mouth. The void black turtle was anxious at this time. "Daoyu, why not?" Yiran looked at the void black turtle with some embarrassment. "Daoyu, you have great luck. If I forcibly reveal the secret of heaven, I am afraid that I will be punished by heaven and hurt my blood." After hearing this, the void black turtle blurted out, "Okay, Daoyu, okay." As he said, the void ripples in front of the void black turtle appeared again. A blood-colored lotus directly emerged. The vitality on this lotus was so rich that Yiran felt his blood gushing out after taking a breath. "This is a 3,000-year quality blood essence lotus, absolutely. Yes, it will replenish your blood and chi." The void black turtle started to introduce, waiting anxiously for Yiran to tell him the secret of himself. Yiran took the blood lotus, feeling the surging vitality on the blood lotus. Shocked in his heart, what a rich man, a 3,000-year-old blood lotus is given away as a gift. I heard that this thing is more than enough to replenish the blood and chi of a transcendent. This blood lotus alone is not inferior to the energy crystal core that the principal Bai Shu gave him before. Yiran hurriedly put away the blood lotus, and said with a little embarrassment, "Since you want to hear it so much, I will sacrifice my life to accompany you." Speaking, Yiran said, "I wonder if you know, in the ancient times of cultivating immortals, the eldest disciple under the seat of Tongtian sect master, Duobao Taoist." Quote. Tongtian sect master, Duobao Taoist. Quote. When the void black turtle heard this word, his breathing became a little rapid. "MD, it sounds awesome. And the name is the same as his own." Yiran looked at the void black turtle, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. This world does have the ancient immortal cultivation era, but the history is too long ago. The real history has long been sunk in the long river of history. Most of the current descriptions of the immortal cultivation era come from everyone's speculation and conception based on the relics. No one can tell the truth. There are also many fairy novels describing the ancient immortal cultivation era. But in this world where everything is inferior and only the cultivation is high, these fairy novels are not as prosperous as Yiran's novels in his previous life. Yiran brought a more exciting new version to the void black turtle. Crude foreign turtle, accept the influence of the prehistoric flow. Yu Ran told the story. It is said that in the chaotic and ignorant ancient times, a great god Pengu created the world, and since then the world was divided into two, and the world was formed. Yu Ran then told the void black turtle the general structure of the prehistoric times. It must be said that the reason why the prehistoric flow can become a school is that it is indeed unique and attractive. Moreover, the world view, progress, and even the degree of logical self-consistency in the prehistoric stories have long been rounded up by millions of prehistoric authors. This void black turtle has never eaten such a fine meal since he was a child. The prehistoric world in Yu Ran's mouth directly fascinated this void black turtle into a fool. In the Zishao Palace, Daozu Hongjun preached and evolved the saints of heaven and earth. Among them, Tongtian sect master realized the one who escaped between heaven and earth and became the saint of heavenly Tao. With the purpose of intercepting a ray of life, he founded Jiejiao in the Bio Palace. Quote, the Jiejiao taught everyone and accepted many disciples. During its heyday, it was said that thousands of immortals came to worship it. Among these Jiejiao disciples, there are naturally famous people. One of the most famous ones is the eldest disciple of Tongtian sect master. Yu Ran paused here. He glanced at the void black turtle and said lightly, his name is Duobao Taoist. Quote, after Yu Ran finished explaining the specific world structure and the origin of Duobao Taoist, the void black turtle breathed rapidly, and the vibration of the void ripples fluctuated a lot. The Duobao Taoist is good at finding treasures and has a very keen sense of treasures. Taoist friend, I guess you are the same, right? Listening to Yu Ran's words, the void black turtle nodded in disbelief. The Duobao Taoist is not only sensitive to treasures, but also very good at breaking restrictions. I think Taoist friend is not much behind. Yu Ran looked at the turtle head exposed in the void, exclaimed. The void black turtle was distracted by what he heard. Could it be? Before the void black turtle finished thinking, Yu Ran continued with great emotion. I believe you have also noticed something. Duobao, what a wonderful coincidence. People with natural treasure perception are good at breaking restrictions. Tisk tisk, I can't think of any other reason except reincarnation. This sentence directly pierced the heart of the void black turtle. I Duobao is the reincarnation of an ancient great man. The void black turtle just laughed foolishly, and it was so good that it didn't come back to its senses for a long time. Yu Ran looked at the expression of the void black turtle and nodded silently. The fire is almost hot. It's time to turn up the fire to reduce the sauce. Yu Ran looked at his watch with some regret. Hey, it's so pleasant to sit and discuss Taoism with fellow Taoists that I forgot the time for a moment. Since the principal is not here, I will not bother you anymore. It's a pity that I can't work with someone with great luck and can't witness the heroic figure of Duobao Taoist return to the world. It's really a regret in life. Forget it, it's time. It's fate. Speaking, Yu Ran turned around gracefully and prepared to leave. 3, 2, 1. Yu Ran muttered in his heart. Daoyu, please stay. The voice of the void black turtle came from behind Yu Ran. Yu Ran's mouth corners slightly raised, but turned around and asked the void black turtle in confusion. Daoyu, what else? The void black turtle hesitated for a long time, and still spoke. Daoyu, what you said, is all this true? Yu Ran looked at the void black turtle with a smile. Do you think someone can make up such a story in such a short time? The void black turtle listened to Yu Ran's words, turned his green bean-sized eyes and thought about it. Indeed, who can make up such a grand and self-consistent story in such a short time? Moreover, how could he see his own strengths and abilities at a glance? Thinking of this, the void black turtle's breathing became rapid. So, am I really the reincarnation of Taoist Duobao? Yu Ran said lightly. Whether it is true or not, Taoist friend, you have your own decision in your heart. Feel your heart well, everything has its own way. All this is guided by destiny. Yu Ran's words were mysterious, but the void black turtle just fell for it. He thought silently. The name is Duobao. They are both good at finding treasures. They are both good at breaking space restrictions. And they both have many treasures on their bodies. A similar place is called coincidence. So many coincidences together, it is not a coincidence. It is called destiny. For a moment, the look in the void black turtle's eyes when he looked at Yu Ran changed. Since everything is destiny, then today this kid came to find Bai Shu. And didn't meet Bai Shu, but met himself. Isn't this also a destiny? Is this destiny guiding me to understand my past life? Is this kid in front of me the guide of my life? Thinking of this, the void black turtle stretched his neck excitedly. Now rejecting destiny, isn't it clearly going against his own destiny? A turtle that goes against destiny can't have a good end. No, I must follow this kid in front of me and can't let down the gift of destiny. Suddenly he remembered what Bai Shu told him before. You can't leave here until you find your own path. Go to yours. The void black turtle breathed rapidly and silently made up his mind. Bai Shu, today I, Duobao, have found my own way. Void black turtle, with a firm look in his eyes, he asked Yi Ran hurriedly. Fellow Taoist, it is fate for me to meet you. If I destroy the fate of heaven, it would be against heaven and disrespectful. Do you think I am right? Yi Ran smiled at the void black turtle and nodded. The void black turtle walked out of the void ripples and said to Yi Ran. From today on, fellow Taoist, how about we travel together? Yi Ran looked at the void black turtle. It is easy to talk to a smart turtle. I don't even need to persuade him. I have already made up the reasons in my mind. Perfect collection of juice. The void black turtle said directly. Wait for me, I'll leave a message for Lao Dang and clean up. By the way, may I know your name? Yi Ran looked at the void black turtle with a smile. My last name is Yi, and my single character is Ran. The void black turtle nodded. Wait a moment, I'll be back soon. After saying that, the void black turtle returned to the principal's office. Picked up the principal's magic ball. Seemed to be recording. Lao Dang, every time I tell you legends from ancient times, you don't like to listen, and you always say that there is a generation gap between me and you. Humph, today I have found a confidant. Lao Dang, you used to I said that I could leave if I found the target of my life, and now I have found it. Quote. From today on, I, Duobao Taoist, will practice with my friend Yi Ran to restore the glory of Zhejiao. By the way, Lao Dang, at least 80% of your collections were found by me. We agreed that if we separate, half of them will belong to me, so I will take them away. Bye, Lao Dang. After saying that, the void black turtle turned off the serve with satisfaction and placed it on Bai Shu's desk. Then, the void black turtle walked directly to Bai Shu's bookshelf. Ignoring the void restriction set by Bai Shu, Da Shake he walked towards the bookshelf with great fanfare. The bookshelf was covered with layers of void ripples. The void black turtle just sank into another space. In this space, all of them were Bai Shu's collections. All kinds of top-level materials, treasures, and magic tools were lined up like mountains. It was a dazzling array of things. The void black turtle looked around. The tortoise shell on its back began to show spatial power. One by one, the tortoise shell pieces opened like lids. All the treasures and materials flew into the holes on the tortoise shell. In an instant, half of the collections here were gone. The void black turtle then put away his magical power and left the void space contentedly. Ripples appeared again above the office door. The void black turtle walked out leisurely. Seeing this, Yi Ran bowed his hands. Duobao Taoist, has this been done? This sentence from Duobao Taoist accurately flattered the void black turtle. He nodded proudly and bowed his hands. It's done, let's go, Taoist friend. At this moment, the system's voice suddenly sounded. Ding, it is detected that the host has completed the achievement task, teaching without distinction 1/1 and has obtained an upgrade opportunity. Please select the upgrade item. Items are limited to attributes and props. Hearing this, Yi Ran was slightly stunned. What a pleasant surprise. At this moment, Bai Shu was unaware of the changes that had occurred in his office. Now Bai Shu was looking at the furnace in front of him that was as calm as water, and fell into deep thought. The fire was still burning, and the fire was still burning. Bai Shu looked at the furnace in front of him. It was no longer as hot and turbulent as before. The whole room could not even feel the heat. The molten flame in the furnace seemed to have been drained of energy. It burned quietly, not to mention surging. It was even difficult to produce a few bubbles. Bai Shu raised his hand silently, and a space black hole appeared above the furnace in an instant. A refined mithril ingot fell directly from the black hole and sank into the furnace. After the mithril iron block fell into the furnace, it did not start to turn red and then melt as usual. This time, the mithril ingot was thrown into the furnace like it was thrown into mud. It did not cause any reaction and just sank slowly. It could not even change color. The strength of the flame was not even as strong as the ordinary forging room next door. Such a huge change, so much so that Bai Shu was a little confused and looked at the sign at the door again. It is a master-level forging room. Bai Shu looked at the magic circle on the furnace. At this time, the magic circle was almost exhausted. Above the magic circle, the light flickered slightly. Like an old man in his twilight years, who would stop the fire at the slightest disturbance. Who did this? Bai Shu was already depressed enough to run here to hide when Yi Ran was chasing him for mental damage compensation. Now, he came here and saw that the extraordinary forging room he regarded as a treasure had been ruined like this. For a moment, Bai Shu felt like a bicycle that he was reluctant to use was being ridden by someone else. Bai Shu was so angry that he blew his beard habitually and snapped his fingers lightly. Plop! Shang Yaochen, who was still sleeping soundly at the front desk, was directly teleported to the extraordinary forging room and fell hard on his buttocks. Shang Yaochen touched his buttocks with a painful expression. Then, he tried to open his eyes that were squeezed by flesh and looked around. Okay, stop looking. Bai Shu's cold voice came. Shang Yaochen then discovered Bai Shu standing next to the furnace. Frightened Shang Yaochen, he jumped up, hurriedly patted his clothes, respectfully bowed 90 degrees, the whole person looked like a huge whistle. Hello, Principal, I am a staff member of the Materials Department, Shang Yaochen. Shang Yaochen stuttered and was extremely nervous. There was no way, even though Bai Shu was famous for his good temper. He was also a real country-killing supernatural person. For ordinary people like them, he was a legendary existence. How could he not be nervous standing with a legend? Bai Shu waved his hand. Don't introduce me. Tell me, who has used this forging room recently? Hearing this, Shang Yaochen's heart skipped a beat. His facial features were all squeezed together with sadness. Isn't he so unlucky? Seeing Shang Yaochen didn't say anything, Bai Shu snorted in question. Scared Shang Yaochen to kneel on the ground. Principal, I'm wrong. I privately lent the extraordinary forging room to a tutor and his students in our school. Tutor, students. Hearing this, Bai Shu narrowed his eyes slightly. As if thinking about the name. He knew his own tutor. The forgers who could use the furnace to this extent were all masters, and they knew how to act. Except for some reckless people. Could it be Huo Wen? This shouldn't be the case. Although the old guy is reckless, he is brave enough to take responsibility. If something goes wrong, he will definitely apologize and compensate me as soon as possible. Bai Shu thought for a long time, but couldn't think of a suitable name. He slowly said, Do you know what the name of the tutor we rented is? Shang Yaochen looked at Bai Shu with a frown, and finally gave in and told him everything. The tutor's name is Yi Ran. I didn't register the names of the other two students. Yi Ran. When Bai Shu heard this name, his calm face finally showed shock. He is still haunting me, right? Why is this stinky kid everywhere? The shadow of the sun. No, isn't this kid just a gold? How can he mess up this level of furnace like this? Bai Shu was puzzled. He looked at Shang Yaochen. What did they refine, do you know? Shang Yaochen frowned and thought for a while. No, when I came out, I really didn't see anything. Not only did he not refine anything, one of his students also took away one of our work clothes. Bai Shu looked at Shang Yaochen's expression, and after confirming that this man was not lying, somewhat helplessly waved his hand. Go. Shang Yaochen was as if he had been pardoned, and hurriedly stood up and prepared to leave here like running away. Go back and tell the material department about your affairs truthfully, and accept the punishment yourself. Bai Shu's cold voice pierced Shang Yaochen's heart. Shang Yaochen's expression was uglier than crying, but he still said respectfully, Okay, Principal. Also, tell your director, your material this year's assessment is not qualified, and the performance is reset to 0. Quote. Okay, Principal. Shang Yaochen really cried this time. When he thought that he was about to go to the material department to tell Shu Yukai the good news, he felt like he fell into an ice cellar, and felt the biting cold beside the furnace. After Shang Yaochen left, Bai Shu looked at his beloved furnace helplessly. If he wanted to repair it, he would have to owe Zhu Duanjun, the stubborn old man, a favor. Yi Ran, this stinky boy, better give him a reasonable explanation. Thinking of this, Bai Shu couldn't help rubbing his temples. Today's forging equipment couldn't be forged. But it's been so long. I think that stinky boy should have left. Bai Shu's mind moved. And he disappeared directly on the spot. A moment later, in the principal's office, there was a clang sound. Some glass object seemed to fall to the ground. Instantly, the powerful space force quickly expanded from the principal's office and enveloped the entire campus. The aura of the Tuguo level made all the creatures in the school tremble. Yi Ran, who was not far away, naturally also felt this majestic space force. He was still choosing the system reward, and he couldn't help but stumble. He looked at the void black turtle beside him with some uncertainty. Duo Bao Dao friend, you didn't do anything to offend the principal, did you? Quote. Duo Bao rolled his eyes. Don't worry, there's no problem, everything is agreed upon, he just can't accept my leaving for a while, it will be fine after a while. Hearing this, Yi Ran nodded slightly relieved. The older people get, the more sentimental they are. Principal Bai probably needs to slow down. Sure enough, after a while, the pressure of the space force dissipated. Yi Ran opened the system reward again. Upgrade project. What should be upgraded to maximize the benefits? Yi Ran thought for a while, and then thought of something. Yi Ran counted the rewards the system gave him now. The innate Dao body does not belong to attributes and props, and cannot be upgraded. The 5-clawed golden dragon soul has merged with his blood and has been consumed, so there is no need to upgrade it. As for the upgrade of attributes, the cost performance does not seem to be very high. The things that can be upgraded at present. It seems that the only thing that can be upgraded is the exclusive staff copied from Zhang Xiaoru. And his own gang token. Yi Ran hesitated for a moment between these two things. Finally, he chose to upgrade the Heavenly Court. Ding, the host's choice is detected, and the Heavenly Court is being upgraded. Ding, congratulations to the hosts, Heavenly Court, for upgrading successfully. Yi Ran randomly clicked on the function of the Heavenly Court. Apprenticeship ceremony. When accepted into the sect master can randomly draw and copy the talents, skills, weapons, etc. of the personal disciples twice. Encouragement. The sect master can temporarily improve the all-round attributes of all disciples, and the current attribute improvement is 200%, and the time limit is 10 minutes 3/3. Current sect passive bonus. 1. Increase the practice speed by 30%. 2. Increase the attack power by 30%. 3. The combined attack damage of the sect disciples is increased by 30%. The sect skills inheritance room has been established. It is being produced according to the host's memory, and the current output inheritance is Martial Tianping Countdown, 15 days. The next output of the statue inheritance requires 3 successful instructions, and the current completion rate, 0/3. The sect chat group has been established, and all members of the Heavenly Court can enter the chat group through the sect master to communicate. The chat group ignores any restrictions and ignores any distance. The chat group has enabled the red envelope distribution function, and the content of the red envelope is not limited to currency, props, etc. The chat group has enabled the teleportation function, and the sect leader can summon any member of the chat group to come to his side. 3/3 cooling time, 2400, 00. The rest of the content will be opened after another upgrade. Seeing this series of introductions, Yi Ran was also a little surprised. I originally thought that this gang order only had a group strengthening effect. I didn't expect that after the upgrade, it would have so many functions. This time's upgrade, in addition to the original enhancement of the attributes of the sect members. The copy function of the apprenticeship gift has also been changed from 1 time to 2 times. But these are not the main points. The main point is that this upgrade actually added 2 major functions. The sect skills inheritance room and the sect's chat group. Seeing that the sect skills inheritance room will produce the inheritance statue of Martial Tianping in 15 days, Yi Ran was amazed. If there is the first one, there will naturally be the second one. According to this principle, the 4 Imperials and 5 Elders, the 28 constellations, the pagoda-bearing Heavenly King, and the 3 altars and sea gods will all be produced as long as time is long enough. My goodness, is this feeling going to build a real heaven by itself? Question mark. However, this function cannot be used for the time being, and it still needs to be accumulated slowly. As for this sect chat group, it is really a magical function. It is a multifunctional chat room that combines communication, transmission, and material delivery. It is also a chat room that ignores all restrictions. If it can be used well, Yi Ran and his disciples will not be in any place or organization in the future. The bond between them will not dissipate. It can be said that the sect chat group is a perfect tool for maintaining feelings and mutual assistance. Yi Ran thought for a moment. Choose to open the sect chat group, and pull all his disciples in. Congratulations to the host, successfully created a chat group, please give yourself a nickname. Yi Ran thought about it. Finally, he silently gave himself a nickname of Gardener. Slowly, Wang Dakin and others in various places seemed to react, and came to the chat group with nicknames. Congratulations, Flame Wanderer, joined the group chat. Congratulations, my name is Wang Dakin, joined the group chat. The originally quiet chat group became cheerful. My name is Wang Dakin, is there anyone here? Where is this place? Flame Wanderer, you are Wang Dakin. My name is Wang Dakin. Who are you? How do you know my name is Wang Dakin? Where is this place? Flame Wanderer, brother, I'm not blind. My name is Wang Dakin. So, who are you? Flame Wanderer, who is like you, telling others names casually in a strange place. Idiot. Yi Ran looked at the 2 guys bickering in silence. Suddenly, the system sent another reminder. Congratulations, Dark Knight Priest, joined the group chat. Flame Wanderer, a newcomer. Dark Knight Priest. Flame Wanderer, Dark Knight Priest. Dark Knight Priest. Flame Wanderer, do you know where this is? Dark Knight Priest. Flame Wanderer, I am so angry, why is there a dumb gourd? Dark Knight Priest. Flame Wanderer, what's your name? Dark Knight Priest, my name is Wang Dakin. He is called Dark Knight Priest, you are called Flame Wanderer, I call myself Wang Dakin, hee. Flame Wanderer, Dakin, you don't think you are very humorous. Yi Ran looked at the conversation between the 3 people with a smile. It seems that the chat was not bad. Then, he silently clicked on the red envelope function and silently put 1,000 dragon coins. The red envelope you issued was snatched away within 1 second. Flame Wanderer, the red envelope snatched here can really be received. My name is Wang Dakin. Hee, I have money for today's haircut. Dark Knight Priest. Flame Wanderer. Gardener, who are you? Why can you send red envelopes? Why can this red envelope be received? Yi Ran thought for a moment. Felt that it would be hard to explain for the time being. Let it go for now, and explain it slowly when the time is right. Yi Ran said to himself. My friend, what did you say? The void black turtle, who was walking on the road, looked up at Yi Ran. Yi Ran shook his head. Nothing, but Taoist Duobao, aren't you walking on the road like this a little too ostentatious? Duobao looked down after hearing Yi Ran's words. Indeed, his body was large, and one turtle almost filled up the entire corridor. Duobao shook his head. What's so difficult about this? Watch me. Then, the carvings on Duobao's turtle's back began to glow white. Instantly, the whole turtle body began to float in the air, and then began to shrink to the extreme, and finally became about the size of a thumb and lay on Yi Ran's shoulder. Yi Ran looked at the little thing on his shoulder and was a little surprised. What are you looking at? Without this ability, how can I break through those space restrictions? Duobao said, proudly raising his turtle's head. Yi Ran shook his head helplessly. Anyway, there was no class in the afternoon, so he simply took Duobao to his staff dormitory. My friend, fellow Taoist Duobao, please tell me. Can you tell me more about the great Taoist Duobao's glorious achievements? Yi Ran, in the afternoon, in the principal's office. Le Wanyi stood respectfully aside, took the plan and said to Bai Shu. Principal, this is the plan for the freshman final exam, please take a look. Le Wanyi looked at Bai Shu. Today's principal was no longer as calm and relaxed as before. His hair was a little messy. There were some bloodshot eyes. He looked exhausted and couldn't hide it. The principal must have worked hard for the school construction, and was exhausted. When she thought of this, Lawani stood up straighter unconsciously. There was respect in her eyes. Bai Shu looked over the plan, raised his head, looked at Lawani with bloodshot eyes. His voice was a little hoarse. Your final exam for the freshman year is still the same as before, planning to have a group test followed by a team battle and then an individual battle. Lawani nodded. After all, this is an old tradition of the Magic and Martial Arts Academy. It is convenient for everyone to operate, and the safety factor is also high. Bai Shu shook his head. Change the mode, cancel the class group battle, and change it to an outdoor hunting cave actual battle. Hearing this, Lawani was slightly stunned. Principal, this is not good. We are all freshmen who have just started school, and the hunting cave actual battle used to be an assessment that started in the second year. Bai Shu nodded. What you said that makes sense. For this freshman assessment, each class will send 2 leading teachers to hunt the demon cave with the 4 strongest students in the class. The teachers are responsible for protecting the students, and participating in the killing does not count. Quote. Lawani hesitated a little, but finally spoke up. I heard recently that the demon cave is extremely unstable. Once a demon tide breaks out, I am afraid that our freshman mentors and materials will not be well prepared, and there will be assessment accidents if we act rashly. Bai Shu waved his hand. Don't worry about this. I will be there in person when the time comes. And it's not just me. There may be a lot of people coming. Let alone the demon tide. Even if the demon god descends, it can be suppressed. Hearing Bai Shu's words, Lawani was slightly stunned. Can the scene of a freshman assessment be this big? However, after Principal Bai said this, Lawani didn't know how to refute. Okay, just do as I say, change the assessment plan, and then notify the freshmen in advance so that they can prepare. Lawani nodded. Okay, Principal. After that, she was about to turn around and leave. Wait a minute. Just as Lawani was leaving, Bai Shu called her. Principal, is there anything else? Bai Shu's eyes were bloodshot, and he said to Lawani. Put Yi Ran's class in the most dangerous position for me. Principal, this is not appropriate. After all, Yi Ran's class has the worst foundation. I'm afraid of danger. Lawani explained anxiously. Bai Shu heard this. His expression was a little complicated. Danger. The least to worry about is Yi Ran's class. However, it is difficult to explain these reasons to Lawani. Bai Shu waved his hand. It's settled. After all, the most dangerous place will get higher scores, which is good for their class. Lawani was about to open her mouth to say something, but she felt her body began to retreat uncontrollably. The next second, she stood directly outside the principal's office. Looking at the closed door, Lawani smiled bitterly, not giving herself a chance to refute. Yi Ran, it's only been a few days since we last met, how come you even offended the principal? In the principal's office, Bai Shu was still sitting in a chair sulking. When he thought that half of his collection was taken away by that old fool, he was furious. And Yi Ran, that stinky boy. Bai Shu couldn't help blowing his beard when he thought of this. It's a bargain for him to go to the demon cave. He should be put in the demon god's territory. Of course, these were just angry words. After all, he and Duobao had made an agreement beforehand. As a Tuguo level extraordinary, he couldn't argue with that fool. The reason for this arrangement was, first, he believed that Yi Ran and the others would definitely be able to handle it. If it didn't work out, there was a student who lowered the extraordinary bottom line to back him up. Second, Bai Shu narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. The bait has been put down, and it's time for the bait to bite. The next day, the assessment rules modified by Bai Shu were also made public. This time, it completely detonated the entire freshman year. What? Is the school crazy? Outdoor assessment. Look carefully. What outdoor assessment? This is a hunt for demon caves. Demon caves. Isn't there a certain chance of hunting for demon caves only at the end of the sophomore year? How come it started in the freshman year? I heard that the assessment for hunting for demon caves has casualty indicators. That's right. One year, we were hunting for demon caves, but we ran into a demon tide and more than half of the people died directly. You choose the top students to participate. Aren't you afraid that these students will be lost? That's right. They have no experience. Even with the protection of teachers, it may not be foolproof. As the school crazy, one stone stirs up 1,000 the waves. Many parents of the selected students even used their connections to put pressure on the school. In the end, they were all strongly rebuffed by the school. Either you drop out of school, or you must participate in the Demon Cave assessment. The assessment storm also spread to the first and second grades. Because the first and second grades not only have to participate in the Demon Cave assessment, the place they were assigned to is also one of the most dangerous places. School, is this crazy? Why, this place is where we can go. I don't know who Teacher Yi is going to choose. Yes, except for Dakin and Huang Dongdong, our strength seems to be not much different. Quote, who cares? I think it's okay for the school to do this. After all, we still have to face the Demon Cave after leaving school. That's right. Although the place we are assigned to is dangerous, the easier it is to hunt high-level monsters, the greater our chances of getting high scores. That's right. Teacher Yi's teachings during this period have been in vain. My brother's Kunquan is already very familiar, just waiting to go to the Demon Cave to kill the little black guy. Don't forget, we just did the hair removal method, and before the assessment, our strength will be at least improved by a lot. That's right. After becoming bald, my brother has also become a lot stronger. If you destroy your prestige again, don't blame me for being a monkey stealing peaches cruel and ruthless. Quote. The students chattered. This challenge was so difficult. Logically speaking, the students who should have been extremely depressed were now eager to try. The original negative quagmire seemed to be slowly transformed by Yi Ran. Presenting a thriving scene, Li Wancheng, who was sitting at the back of the classroom, looked at these high-spirited students and was amazed. After this period of contact, he really didn't think this was a lazy class. On the contrary, the fighting spirit of these students was no less than those young men in their military. The emotional rendering made him arouse some of his passion when he first entered the barracks. However, there was one thing that Li Wancheng couldn't figure out. He had just left for a day for something. After coming back, what was going on with these big bald heads? Has the trend of young people recently become so popular that he couldn't understand it? Swish. As the classroom door opened, Yi Ran stepped into the second class of grade 1. However, as soon as he entered, he was blinded by the light. Who would turn on the light so brightly in broad daylight? After a while, Yi Ran squinted his eyes, and then he opened his eyes slowly and then closed them again. What did I see? Am I dreaming? After a while, Yi Ran finally prepared himself mentally, and he slowly opened his eyes and looked at the shiny bald heads. He felt a little heartache. It was too hot for the eyes. It was fine if all the men were bald, but why did the girls shave their heads too? This is. Yi Ran wanted to say something, but the words were on his lips and he couldn't say them. And all the students in the second class of the first grade looked at him smugly. Especially Wang Dakin, who put on an "I know everything" look and laughed. Looking at Wang Dakin's expression, Yi Ran was startled. A bad premonition came to his mind. He said helplessly, Wang Dakin, tell me, what's going on? Wang Dakin looked at Yi Ran and stood up with a proud face. Teacher Yi, don't hide it, we all know the tricks you gave Huang Dongdong. Hearing this, Yi Ran instantly understood the reason. When he looked at Huang Dongdong lowered his head and got into the desk at the first time. I am in the desert ostrich. You can't see me, you can't see. Huang Dongdong, stand up right there. Yi Ran's sharp voice frightened Huang Dongdong. Then, he stood up shyly with an embarrassed look on his face. Give me an explanation. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong. Teacher Yi, I really didn't mean it. I only lied to Dakin, I really didn't expect everyone to believe it. Huang Dongdong said aggrievedly. Hearing Huang Dongdong's words, Wang Dakin, who was originally complacent, froze. His heart skipped a beat. He turned his head and looked at Huang Dongdong. Dongdong, no way, didn't you say that if you completely remove the hair and feel the inner strength, your cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds? Quote. Facing Wang Dakin's clear and stupid big eyes, Huang Dongdong chose to avoid it. At this time, no matter how honest Wang Dakin was, he understood the general idea. He touched his bald head with a sad face. Huang Dongdong, give me back my hair. He was about to walk towards Huang Dongdong. Wang Dakin, sit down. Wang Dakan stopped with his big bald head. But his emotions still didn't calm down. With 7 points of grievance and 3 points of grief, he shouted loudly. Sit down. After saying that, he sat down with the buttocks. At this time, the proud faces of the whole class collapsed. Some had silently taken out their hats from the drawer and put them on. Yi Ran looked at the students unhappily. How can I say hello to you? Being humiliated by a 12-year-old, the little kids are playing around, can they have some sense of independence? Quote. It would have been better if he hadn't said this. All the students present blushed. Huang Dongdong. Quote. Teacher Yi, you say. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong, somewhat helpless. From today on, you will be solely responsible for the hygiene of the classroom until the end of the final exam. Quote. Okay, Teacher Yi. Huang Dongdong also knew that he was in the wrong, and quietly agreed to Yi Ran's punishment. Yi Ran looked at the bald heads in the class. What the hell? In just one day, he changed from a school tutor to a temple abbot. Yi Ran raised his head helplessly and let out a long breath. He calmed down. Okay, let's get back to business. You have seen the school's assessment notice today. The usual group battle was cancelled, and it was changed to a magic cave hunting. Each class selected 4 students and a teacher to go to the magic cave together. Quote. The demon cave where the hunting is being conducted this time is called the Eternal Night Demon Cave. It is one of the 72 demons and one of the original territories of the Eternal Night Demon God. The Eternal Night Demon Cave was once at its peak. There were countless gold-level demon generals, no less than 100 platinum-level demon kings, and no less than 10 diamond-level demon lords. In addition, it was protected by the Eternal Night King, a supernatural being who slaughtered a country, and it was also called one of the forbidden areas. However, in the battle between the Eternal Night Demon God and the Superpower Alliance, he was beheaded and died by the Superpower Alliance. The entire demon cave lost its protection, and all the major forces entered the scene one after another, and the demon lords and demon kings in the Eternal Night Demon Cave died or fled, and the strength of the Eternal Night Demon Cave has been greatly reduced. Quote. After this period of history, the Eternal Night Demon Cave has completely become a trial place for major forces. Now in the Eternal Night Demon Cave, most of the monsters are just low-level monsters, so everyone doesn't have to bear too much psychological burden. Yi Ran told the students about the origin and evolution of the Eternal Night Demon Cave. Then, he changed the subject and his tone became serious. But this time, I believe you have seen where our class is divided. The Eternal Night Mountain Ridge, one of the permanent residences of the Eternal Night Demon God in the Eternal Night Demon Cave. In other words, it is also the place where the magic energy in the Eternal Night Demon Cave is the strongest. The monsters living here have a very high probability of evolving and upgrading. So, no one can guarantee whether there will be high-level monsters here. Quote. I hope all students can understand that after going to the Demon Cave, you can no longer hold yourself to the standards of a student. You are a soldier on the battlefield. You will face threats from all sides and the test of life and death. Remember, don't underestimate any monster. Even a silver-level monster may kill you. On the battlefield, there is no luck. Any negligence will cause death. Don't be reckless, don't be arrogant, and activate the return stone as soon as possible when there is danger. Yi Ran looked at the students and paused. Now I will click on the list of students participating in this Demon Cave hunting assessment. Wang Dakan, Huang Dongdong, Zhang Xiaoru, Lan Moyan. As for the team leader, I and teacher Li Wancheng will lead the team. Quote. As soon as Yi Ran's list came out, all the students were in an uproar. What the hell? It's understandable that Dakan and Huang Dongdong are on the list, but how did Zhang Xiaoru and Lan Moyan get on the list? Quote. Yeah, Zhang Xiaoru couldn't even use the lowest level of healing spells at the time, and she must have been on leave for a long time. She doesn't even practice cultivation, so she's probably still the same. I'm not slandering my classmates, isn't it a burden to let her in? Do you know what Lan Moyan's background is? We haven't even seen him take action. Quote. Looking at him, he doesn't seem to be very good at fighting. You can't just rely on your good looks to make monsters commit suicide. Teacher Yi, you're not going to give up again. That's impossible. If you keep giving up, Teacher Yi will be fired. The classmates chattered, not understanding Yi Ran's selection. Yi Ran naturally didn't explain anything. After all, the 4 people he selected were definitely the strongest 4-person team that their class could put together. Let's not talk about Lan Moyen. Just talking about the previous 3 people, if nothing unexpected happens, it should be no problem for them to go through the Eternal Night Demon Cave without the Platinum Demon King. Add Lan Moyen. Unless the Eternal Night Demon God is reborn, there should be nothing in the Eternal Night Demon Cave that can stop him. Of course, the main reason why Yi Ran chose Lan Moyen was to prevent the Zhu family from making small moves. Yi Ran looked at Wang Dakin and the others. This Demon Cave assessment is based on hunting monsters as credits. Black iron is 1 point, bronze is 10 points, silver is 100 points, gold is 1000 points, and so on. I hope our class can make a great comeback. We have only one goal. Yi Ran raised a finger. First. Quote. In an office opposite Yi Ran's classroom, a fat man silently took off his headphones. With a disdainful smile on his face, he said to himself, "First, I will help." Han Kyun was half bowed with a respectful look on his face, glancing towards Yi Ran's classroom, with a sinister look in his eyes. At this time, the fat man put down the telescope. He squinted his eyes and looked at Han Kyun, smiling and said, "How is it, Teacher Han, have you found it?" Han Kyun nodded. "Boss Zhu, we have found it all." Among the list of students reported by Yi Ran this time, there is only one Huang Dongdong who deserves attention. This is Huo Wen's disciple of Huo Xingmin. The other 3 people are all students in Yi Ran's class. Their strength should be silver level. One is a new transfer student. There is no information for the time being. Han Kyun hesitated for a moment and continued, "Boss Zhu, I will check the background of this transfer student again." After hearing this, the fat man waved his hand. No more checking. What can be found about an unknown transfer student? If he is really a treasure, which school will let him go? Hearing what the fat man said, Han Kyun nodded in cooperation. "Boss Zhu is right, then I won't check it." The fat man seemed very satisfied with Han Kyun's performance. He leaned back and said confidently, "It seems that Yi Ran's trump card is Huang Dongdong. At present, it is like this." Hearing this, the fat man smiled disdainfully. "It's just a disciple of the sect who is about to fall. Treat him as a treasure. The Yi family is really getting better and better. I thought it would be a difficult task to complete, but it turned out to be like this, and my cousin insisted that I keep an eye on it, wasting time." Then, the fat man raised his head again and looked at Han Kyun with a smile. "Teacher Han, how have you been recently?" Han Kyun listened to the fat man's question and nodded hurriedly. "Thanks to the Zhu family, I was able to escape danger and save my life. This kindness, Han will never forget it. Thank you, Mr. Zhu, thank you, Zhu family." This person called Mr. Zhu is from the Zhu family in Kyoto. Zhu Wenbin, a branch of the Zhu family, can be regarded as Zhu Dacheng's cousin. Although he was a waste who only cultivated to the level of gold, he was still arranged in an important position under the operation of the Zhu family. On weekdays, Zhu Wenbin liked to watch some poor nobles who were stronger than himself perform obedience to him. To satisfy his inferiority and complacency, Zhu Wenbin stretched his body, felt a little uncomfortable in his throat, so he glanced at Han Kyun beside him. Han Kyun picked up the ashtray beside him very sensibly and held it in front of the fat man with both hands. Pooh! Zhu Wenbin spat a mouthful of thick phlegm into the ashtray, comfortably pinched his collar, shook his head, then smiled and patted Han Kyun's shoulder. "Teacher Han, don't worry, the Zhu family will not treat you unfairly. Even if you break up with Mowu in the end, the Zhu family can also let you go somewhere else, and your future will be just as bright." Quote. Hearing Zhu Wenbin's words, Han Kyun bowed respectfully as if he had received the emperor's grace. "Thank you, Zhu family. From now on, Han Kyun, will do everything for the Zhu family." Quote. Han Kyun's obedience made Zhu Wenbin very satisfied. This is the effect that the Zhu family wants. Since you have been saved, you will be a member of the Zhu family in the future. Any interests must be centered on the Zhu family. Of course, the rise of the Zhu family will not forget to give you soup. The Zhu family has used this method to control many young talents whose minds are not very upright. Zhu Wenbin listened to Han Kyun's words and nodded. It's good that you have this intention, after all, you have to deal with it. Han Kyun looked at Zhu Wenbin and continued. Don't worry, President Zhu, even if you don't say it, I will fight with Yi Ran to the end. Han Kyun said with gritted teeth. Han Kyun hated Yi Ran to the bone. The wealth and image that he had built for many years were destroyed by Yi Ran at once. He even almost lost his life. Before, Yi Ran was relatively low-key. So Han Kyun didn't know Yi Ran's background. Now that Han Kyun is in the game, he also understands the grievances between the Zhu family and the Yi family. Naturally, he knows why the Zhu family saved him. Although he is a pawn. But this way he can both avenge his hatred and serve as a token of his loyalty to the Zhu family. Why not do this to kill two birds with one stone? Han Kyun looked at Zhu Wenbin. Mr. Zhu, Han really wants to kill the thief, but his ability is limited. Yi Ran's strength is obvious to all. Han's failure is a small matter, but it is a big sin to ruin the Zhu family's plan. Quote. Zhu Wenbin looked at Han Kyun and waved his hand. Don't worry, this time, your task is just to mess up his assessment, and someone will kill Yi Ran later. But, we in the Zhu family are particular about doing things in a foolproof way. Then, Zhu Wenbin threw it on the table. A row of steel syringes rolled out. Through the glass surface on the syringes, you can see the green strange liquid inside. Han Kyun saw this, picked up one, and looked at it carefully. This is. Zhu Wenbin looked at Han Kyun with some contempt, and said casually. Have you heard of the water of life? Quote. After hearing the words, water of life, Han Kyun's hands trembled, and he almost lost his grip. He looked at Zhu Wenbin in shock. Zhu Wenbin nodded. Yes, that's what you have in your hand. Hearing Zhu Wenbin's affirmation, Han Kyun once again looked at the needle. There was no way. The reputation of the water of life was too great. This was not some kind of treatment potion. Anyone who had been injected with the water of life, the strength would surge by a stage in a short period of time. Extremely violent, even at Han Kyun's level, after being injected with the water of life. It can instantly transition from the initial stage of platinum to the late stage of platinum, and may even surge to the level of half-step diamond. The most amazing thing is, this kind of thing. After using it, the body will be overdrawn, and it will be fine after a period of rest. In addition, there are no side effects. It is an absolute top-level stimulant. And another reason why the water of life is famous is the production of this water of life. This is the unique life-absorbing skill of the monster succubus. It is processed by squeezing the life of the human body. So, the production of the water of life is completely a transaction between some organizations that betrayed the human race and the Queen of Charm, one of the 72 demons. Sacrificing living people, 90% for the succubus to enjoy, 10% turned into the water of life. So, although this thing is very effective, it has violated the bottom line of mankind. As long as it appears, it will be destroyed. Not only destroyed. Human organizations have publicly declared that any organization has the right to kill people or organizations that use, sell and produce the water of life. It can be said that no matter you own, sell or produce the water of life, you will be the public enemy of mankind. Han Kyun took this water of life. The water was heavy. It felt a bit hard to hold. Zhu Wenbin actually threw out such a hot potato. He felt that he was evil enough, but he never thought that the Zhu family was more terrifying than he imagined. If this thing were known to others, they would definitely die without a burial place. Now Zhu Wenbin gave him nearly 5 bottles of water of life at once. Such a volume, such a level of indifference. Han Kyun even suspected that the Zhu family was involved in the development of the water of life. Since Zhu Wenbin was so generous to give him this kind of thing, it seemed that he had only 2 options now. Either obey or die. Thinking of this, Han Kyun was sweating profusely, and his back felt cold. Why, Mr. Han, do you want to report me with this expression? Zhu Wenbin's unpleasant voice came again. Han Kyun glanced at Zhu Wenbin, who was a little teasing, and gritted his teeth. He put the water of life directly into his inner pocket. Zhu Wenbin admired Han Kyun's performance. Mr. Han, Master, rest assured, this generation of water of life, as long as the injection is not caught, even the extraordinary cannot find it. Give it to your students. I have only one request. Zhu Wenbin took a look, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Deliberately conflict with Yi Ran's students, and then kill them. Quote. Han Kyun nodded after hearing this. There are 4 gold students in his own class. As long as they are injected with the water of life, each of them can be regarded as a pseudo-platinum level without enlightenment. This level of power, in Han Kyun's eyes, is more than enough to deal with Yi Ran's class. Han Kyun looked at Zhu Wenbin and nodded seriously. Don't worry, President Zhu, I will arrange it. After speaking, Han Kyun left the room directly. Zhu Wenbin watched Han Kyun leave. He touched his ring with a little thought, narrowed his eyes sinisterly. Muttered to himself, 1 layer of insurance is not enough. On the other side, Yi Ran had just finished inspiring morale with an impassioned speech. I will stop here today. I wish our class can win the championship this year and return triumphantly. Yi Ran on the podium looked at the students below with satisfaction. After his teaching and training during this period of time, classes 1 and 2 are no longer a mess as usual. Both the strength and mentality have undergone earth-shaking changes. The spring breeze of passion and vitality finally blew on the faces of every student in this class. This youthful picture, if it weren't for these bald heads, the relationship would be better. Thinking of this, Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong speechlessly again. As if he felt Yi Ran's gaze, Huang Dongdong quickly lowered his head and chose to avoid it. The time for the final exam is getting closer and closer. There is no time left for these students to grow their hair. Students in my class may have to take the exam with bald heads. Forget it, it's just the monk class. As long as I can get the grades. Yi Ran reluctantly accepted the reality. He waved his hand. Get out of class is over, classmates. After that, he was ready to leave the classroom. At the moment Yi Ran left, everyone's eyes were on Huang Dongdong. If eyes could kill, Huang Dongdong should have been tortured to death by now. You are in trouble. Lan Moyan looked at Huang Dongdong with a playful look. At this moment, Huang Dongdong was extremely calm and confident. Ruo. Don't panic, watch my performance. Facing the murderous gazes, Huang Dongdong was calm and composed. He coughed lightly, randomly picked up a book from his desk, and stood up and looked at the classroom door. Teacher Yi, I don't quite understand this boxing. Yi Ran, who had already left the classroom, looked back at Huang Dongdong. Then follow me. Okay, teacher. In an instant, Huang Dongdong left the classroom at an extremely fast speed. So fast that he even used the power of Samadhi True Fire, leaving a trail of golden red afterimages. Before everyone could react, they could no longer find Huang Dongdong. So fast, Lan Moyan muttered to herself as she watched Huang Dongdong running away. Li Wancheng, who was sitting at the back of the classroom, was also slightly surprised to see Huang Dongdong leave. As a superhuman, he could naturally see that Huang Dongdong's energy fluctuations were abnormal. It had definitely exceeded the limit that ordinary gold could reach. Could it be that Huang Dongdong was also a good seedling? For a moment, Li Wancheng, who was eager to see the prey, stood up and planned to go out and feel out Huang Dongdong's background. As a result, he had just walked to Lan Moyan's side, but was blocked by Lan Moyan. At this time, Lan Moyan Yan looked at him with a smile on his face. Li Wancheng looked at Lan Moyan's smile and could not help but shudder. The reason was that the cold evil spirit on Lan Moyan had enveloped him. The horror of the evil spirit actually stimulated his lava skin to activate passively. What is wrong with this killer again? Li Wancheng complained about Lan Moyan speechlessly, but he still had a smile on his face. Student Lan, is there anything you need the assistant teacher's help with? Listening to Li Wancheng's question, Lan Moyan smiled a little brighter. He nodded seriously. The test is about to start, and my swordsmanship is still a little rusty. Please correct me, Teacher Li. Hearing Lan Moyan's words, Li Wancheng's heart was full of horses. I correct you, brother, if you want to kill me, just say it. There is no need to make these twists and turns. Of course, Li Wancheng didn't dare to say these words. For a moment, the two of them froze in place. Why is Teacher Li unwilling? Lan Moyan still smiled, but this peerless face was more terrifying than the devil in Li Wancheng's eyes. Li Wancheng smiled awkwardly. Ahem, of course the teacher is willing, but I've been feeling a little uncomfortable recently. Next time, I will definitely correct it next time. As he said this, Li Wancheng turned sideways, intending to avoid Lan Moyan and chase after Huang Dongdong. As a result, just as he was walking side by side with Lan Moyan, he felt something sharp against his waist. Li Wancheng slowly lowered his head and looked. At this time, Lan Moyan's magic weapon, the treasure of the Sword God sect, one of the sharpest magic weapons in Dragon Country, without a sharp edge, was against his waist. Li Wancheng slowly swallowed his saliva, raised his head and looked deeply at Lan Moyan. Said to Lan Moyan in a voice that others could not hear. Director Lan, there is no need to be so cruel. Lan Moyan looked at Li Wancheng with a smile on her face, and uttered the same words that others could not hear from her mouth. Voice. Today, you have to compete, whether you want or not. Hearing Lan Moyan's threat, Li Wancheng suddenly laughed and patted Lan Moyan on the shoulder. Classmate Lan, I suddenly feel better. Let's go to the practice room together now and let me teach you some good things. Thank you, Teacher Li. Lan Moyan still smiled and expressed his gratitude. You're welcome. It's what a teacher should do. The two of them left the classroom side by side. They were so close that they seemed like brothers, and they were very close. Anyone who saw them would have to say that the teacher and student had a deep affection for each other. And at this moment, Yi Ran in the corridor, was looking at Huang Dongdong in front of him speechlessly. Dongdong. You took a comic book, what do you want me to teach you? The key is still a romance comic. Huang Dongdong also lowered his head at this moment. Teacher Yi, I was wrong about the whole class being bald. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong apologizing and rubbed his head helplessly. Okay, don't be naughty next time. Yi Ran said, furious. In the end, they are just stupid. They are so embarrassed to be fooled by a child. Quote. Looking at Yi Ran, Huang Dongdong didn't seem angry, so he finally put his mind at ease. If you have nothing else to do, go back to class. Yi Ran waved his hand, signaling Huang Dongdong to leave. No, teacher, I really have something to do, that is. Huang Dongdong thought about it, hesitating for a long time, and just pestered Yi Ran. Then he seemed to think of something, and hurriedly said to Yi Ran. By the way, Teacher Yi, there is one more thing that I have in mind. Inside recently a strange thing happened. I could actually chat with Wang Dakin in my mind. Quote. Not only that, I could send red envelopes in the chat group, and the coolest thing is that the red envelopes could be received. Quote. Afterwards, Huang Dongdong vividly told Yi Ran everything about the chat group in his mind. When he spoke, his eyes were still filled with confusion and shock. After all, this kind of thing was too weird. Even if the fire sect was so, after years of experience, he had never heard of such a thing. So, Teacher Yi, do you know what's going on? Could I be cursed by some weird church? Listening to Huang Dongdong, the chat group was so bad, Yi Ran said speechlessly. Your family will give you money for cursing. That's right. Huang Dongdong touched his head embarrassedly, and finally thought of other directions. Teacher Yi, do you think this is a new type of telecom fraud? I heard that telecom fraud methods are to give you a little favor first, and then cheat you out of everything. Teacher Yi, to be honest, my master Huo Wen was once deceived into buying tea leaves, and ended up spending millions without even seeing a single drop of tea leaves. Master forbids me from telling anyone outside. Teacher Yi, you must not tell anyone else. Huang Dongdong spoke vividly. Yi Ran interrupted Huang Dongdong speechlessly. Stop. If Huang Dongdong continued to speak like this, his chat group would have to go to the Public Security Bureau to register. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong unhappily. Tell me, would someone with such means commit telecom fraud? Yi Ran hadn't figured out how to explain this to these students, so he planned to fool them for the time being. That chat group should not be a bad thing, just stay there. Quote. No, teacher. Huang Dongdong wanted to ask more, and he seemed to be trying to find something to talk about. Yi Ran was a little tired and said he waved his hand, too lazy to explain so much, and interrupted Huang Dongdong's question. Okay, you've been lingering here for a long time and refused to leave. You've said so much nonsense, I still don't know you come out for hiding from Wang Dakin. Quote. Yi Ran pointed to the corner again. Wang Dakin and his companions who were squatting in the corner just now have left. You can rest assured now. As if his thoughts were exposed by Yi Ran, Huang Dongdong touched him embarrassedly. He patted her head and then flattered her. You are worthy of being teacher Yi. You have discovered this. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong unhappily. If I made a mistake, I made a mistake. Chun and the others are so old, can they still eat you? Quote. Prepare well for the final exam. If you really want to make up for it, remember to work harder in the exam room. Huang Dongdong nodded seriously after hearing Yi Ran's words. Nodding. Teacher, don't worry. As the leader of Class 2, I have no choice but to stand by my brothers. Dongdong, can you read less martial arts novels? In the training room, Li Wancheng looked at Lan Moyan who was doing warm-up exercises in front of him. And in his heart he had already started to call out the names of Lan Moyan's family tree one by one. After a while, Lan Moyan stood up, looking at Li Wancheng with a smile. Do you need to warm up? Li Wancheng looked at Lan Moyan's harmless and flawless face. And swallowed his saliva. Quote, stop joking, Director Lan, I am no match for you. Director Lan, there are no outsiders here, let's not go around in circles. Li Wancheng frowned. While speaking, he waved his hand. What kind of international joke is this? Lan Moyan's sword. Even Bai Shu had to retreat. Who am I? What are you talking about, Teacher Li? I don't understand. Lan Moyan looked at Li Wancheng and asked naturally. Li Wancheng looked at Lan Moyan. At this moment, it was more uncomfortable than eating shit. No one can wake up a person who pretends to sleep. But this person who pretends to sleep wants to beat me up now. But I can't beat him. For a moment, facing the deadlock, Li Wancheng shook his head speechlessly, put his hands on his waist, and exhaled a breath of depression. Lan Moyan looked at Li Wancheng's movements and asked, is this your warm-up exercise? Then I'll start. Quote. Li Wancheng, what do you mean by warm-up exercise? Are we still going to talk about the basic law? Just after he finished speaking, Lan Moyan's eyes lit up slightly. There was no change in her movements. But in Li Wancheng's eyes, he could no longer see Lan Moyan's figure. What was in front of him was no longer the beautiful young man in his 20s. But a sharp blade with unparalleled sharpness. The sharpness on the blade. Just a glance at it, made his face feel a kind of pain of being cut. The ultimate sword intent. The unity of man and sword. The sharp sword energy, gathered into a sharp edge, focusing in front of Li Wancheng. Li Wancheng felt a tremor from the soul. The surging sharpness stung every cell of Li Wancheng. I'm going to start. Quote. Lan Moyan was still concise. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared. Boer. Quote. Li Wancheng was so anxious that he spoke in his hometown dialect. Although he didn't know what Lan Moyan was crazy about. He was a supernatural person in the military. After all, he had experienced life and death battles, so he naturally couldn't sit and wait for death. Lava skin, hardened. In an instant, Li Wancheng's body began to expand. The whole person instantly expanded from 2 meters to 5 meters in height. The clothes on his body were directly shattered. Li Wancheng's skin began to gradually turn into the appearance of lava. The pieces of lava skin. On it the flash of swords and sabers showed the owner's brilliant record. Between the gullies of lava, the dark red energy, like magma, constantly flashed a terrifying breath. With every breath, carrying a heavy weight, a cold light flashed. After a crisp sound, Lan Moyan's figure appeared directly behind Li Wancheng. At this time, Lan Moyan looked at Li Wancheng, smiled and nodded, and said with a little appreciation. As expected of a genius with high hopes from the military, this defense is pretty good. Li Wancheng slowly turned his head, looking at Lan Moyan with resentment. Now, you don't pretend to be a student and teacher. Fortunately, I reacted quickly, so I didn't get hurt. Li Wancheng complained speechlessly. As a result, at the moment when Li Wancheng turned around, boom, quote, the 5-meter-tall body fell to the ground without any control. You are very strong, worthy of my sword. Lan Moyan's voice came faintly in front of Li Wancheng. Chapter 91. The more he tried, the more he realized that he was in trouble. Li Wancheng tried to control his body, but found that he had no way to use his legs. He was shocked at this moment. How could it be possible? Although the attack just now was invincible, he still blocked it with all his strength. Why, His legs. At this moment, Li Wancheng's face was flashing with fear. Being injured is not scary. What is scary is that you can't understand how the other party attacked after being injured. You are obviously a transcendent. But Lan Moyan's sword. Is it so scary that you can't understand it? For a moment, Li Wancheng felt that the gap between him and Lan Moyan was like a chasm. But he had come into contact with the military's national-level extraordinary person before. And the gap was indeed large. But no extraordinary person had ever made him feel so powerless. Thinking of this, Li Wancheng was sweating profusely, and fear flashed in his eyes. Don't waste your energy. I have cut off the sense of your legs. It should take half a month to recover. Lan Moyan's mouth corners slightly raised, and her face was still a harmless smile. What a pity, I just missed the freshman assessment. Li Wancheng's heart, me. Percent at percent, %. Lan Moyan, Call the infirmary for me. No problem. After saying that, Lan Moyan turned around and left. Wait a minute. Lan Moyan stopped and turned around. Anything else you want to tell me? At least leave me a set of clothes. As time went by, the day of the freshman assessment at the Magic City High Martial Arts Academy was getting closer and closer. All teachers and students focused on this assessment, especially after the official announcement that the prize for this freshman assessment was a space ring made by Bai Shu, one of the 3 pillars of the Magic City, the Void Venerable, a country-killing supernatural being, and the principal of the Magic City High Martial Arts Academy. The whole school began to boil. After all, a space-related item that costs millions of dragon coins to sell to the outside world. And it was made by a master. As soon as this news came out, the topic was once on the front page of the news. This undoubtedly added a touch of heat to the freshman assessment. For a time, the whole school began to discuss the favorites to win the championship more and more. Have you heard? Several students in teacher Li Shizong's class have suddenly broken through to the gold level. What do you mean by sudden breakthrough? It's just that they have been hiding it all the time and are only saying it now. In the first year, there are nearly 10 gold students. The name of this master teacher is really well deserved. Haven't you seen it before? At that time, in order to compete for this Magic Cave assessment, those 10 students in teacher Li Shizong's class also had an internal competition. I watched the video. It's too scary, it's simply a monster. 4 of them have reached the late gold level. 4 late gold levels. Some sophomore classes can't even put together such a lineup. It's worthy of being the first on the list of favorites to win the first year this time. Except for Li Shizong's class, only teacher Han's class should be qualified to compete for the championship, right? After all, there are also 4 gold level students. Quote, hey, Han Kyun that beast. Quote, shish, be careful not to be heard. Quote, although the teacher is a beast, I have to say that his class is really strong. The students discussed with each other. The first-year favorites have been completely focused on Li Shizong's class and Han Kyun's class. These 2 classes are also called the twin stars of the first year. Although Yiran's first-year second class also has its own students and other classmates discussing the potential to win the championship. But every time it is said, it will be treated as a joke by other students. Just laugh it off. Not only did it not create any momentum for the first-year second class, but the fact that the first-year second class was tricked by a 12-year-old kid to shave their heads spread throughout the campus. The saying that good things don't go out, but bad things spread thousands of miles has been verified once again. In short, after this round of discussion, the students of the first-year second class were very upset. Zaihuo. At this moment, Yiran dragged the suitcase, looking at the little turtle lying on his shoulder in silence. Daoyu Duobao, it's not that I don't want to take you, it's just that this is against the rules. Although Yiran said earnestly, Duobao just lay on Yiran's shoulder and refused to move. With diamond-level strength, Yiran probably couldn't get rid of Duobao even if he removed his arm. Duobao just lay there, and said with disdain, just take me to the connection point, I have plenty of ways to get in, they can find a hair on me, I can't tell them, your surname. Yiran looked at Duobao speechlessly. How can you, a turtle, have hair? As if he felt Yiran's gaze, Duobao proudly raised his little turtle head, and said in a condescending manner, friend Yiran, I tell you, there is a great opportunity in the Eternal Night Demon Cave. If you don't take this opportunity with you, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Great opportunity. Hearing Duobao say this, Yi Ran was immediately excited. After all, Duobao had been traveling around with Baishu for so long. His vision and knowledge are definitely well known. To be called a great opportunity by him, that is really an incredible thing. Of course, why do you think the Superpower Alliance could have chosen a weaker demon to complete the second awakening mission, but chose the Eternal Night Demon with an upper middle strength? Hearing this, Yi Ran became alert. Indeed, when the Superpower Alliance announced that it would encircle and suppress the Eternal Night Demon, it shocked the whole world. After all, the Absolute Power, Andrew's second awakening mission, only required the life crystal of a demon, and it did not specifically require the Eternal Night King. They could have chosen a weaker demon to encircle and suppress, but they chose to encircle and suppress the Eternal Night Demon with an upper middle strength. This is unacceptable. At that time, this topic had sparked a lot of discussion. But as time went by, people gradually stopped dwelling on this matter. Daoyu Duobao, I'd like to hear more details, Yi Ran said modestly. Duobao nodded his head with great satisfaction, and said complacently, let me tell you, the Eternal Night Demon Cave is different from other demon caves. This place is not polluted by the Eternal Night Demon God himself, but a natural dimensional space. At the beginning, the Superpower Alliance chose to encircle and suppress the Eternal Night Demon God. One reason was because of Andrew's second awakening, and the other reason was to find the thing called seeds in the Eternal Night Demon Cave. Seeds, Yi Ran found the point. As for seeds, I don't really understand them. Baishu once said this to me when we were chatting, and... Before Duobao finished, Duobao's voice stopped abruptly. Then he seemed to realize that he had said too much. Waving his tortoise claws, muttering, heavenly secrets cannot be revealed, heavenly secrets cannot be revealed. Oh, I've revealed too much, it hurts my body, I need to rest. Then, Duobao closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. In order to pretend to be more realistic, Duobao even snored intentionally or unintentionally. Why are you snoring, a turtle? Looking at this void black turtle pretending to sleep, and using the excuses he made up before to prevaricate himself, Yi Ran felt choked. Looking at this posture, I guess I can't ask anything more. Yi Ran shook his head helplessly. In the suburbs, on a very empty lawn, there stands a huge door frame. The material of the door frame cannot be seen clearly, but it shines brightly under the sunlight, showing the extraordinary origin of the door frame. On the door frame, there are dense and mysterious patterns. These patterns are complex and extremely regular. If you look closely, you may even fall into them and cannot extricate yourself for a short time. At this time, the middle of the door frame is completely transparent, standing quietly on this wide lawn. There are even birds flying freely in the middle. At this moment, Wang Dakin and others looked up at the huge door frame, with surprise in their eyes. Is this, the legendary dimensional door? Wang Dakin muttered to himself. Huang Dongdong on the side looked at Wang Dakin with a smug look on his face. Big fool, you don't know anything, do you? This is the dimensional gate. As long as you put the corresponding spatial position coordinates, this dimensional gate will push energy and generate a connection point between the two worlds. The reason why our dimensional gate is so big is because it is a national dimensional gate built by Longguo with all its national strength. All major forces in Longguo can use it as long as they provide public coordinates and energy funds. In fact, some top forces also have their own dimensional gates, but they are not as big as this one. Don't underestimate this dimensional gate. After all, many cultivation resources and materials that do not belong to our world have to be collected from other worlds through the dimensional gate. It can be said that any dimensional gate plus the world coordinates represents a world's resource veins. The standard configuration of any top force is to have at least one dimensional gate. Huang Dongdong's words are very logical. After all, he is also a direct disciple of the sect organization, so he still has some knowledge. Wang Dakin listened to Huang Dongdong's words and looked at him with respect. He had a bald head, his eyes blinked, and he looked at Huang Dongdong sincerely. Dongdong, you know so much, your fire sect must also have a dimensional gate, right? This sentence directly choked the proud Huang Dongdong, and he looked at Wang Dakin with a black face. Dakin, there is no need to ask some questions. Yi Ran, who was standing aside, looked at the leave note given to him by Lan Moyen. Lowered his head and read it repeatedly. Looked at Lan Moyen with a calm face. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, "Are you sure that Teacher Li accidentally broke his leg when he went downstairs, so he couldn't take the exam temporarily, right?" Lan Moyen nodded calmly, and then pointed to the leave note in Yi Ran's hand. "This is Teacher Li's leave note, and it has Teacher Li's handprint on it." "Which good person's leave note has handprints? Did you get this leave note by good means?" Yi Ran looked at Lan Moyen, and finally put away the note silently. "The design of the second-floor staircase is indeed problematic. When I go back, I have to report it to the material department." Then, Yi Ran looked at Zhang Xiaoru, who had just arrived at the school yesterday. Now Zhang Xiaoru, although she also has a Lolita face and a simple long skirt. But compared with before, the whole person no longer looks down for no reason. Not only that, originally had a slight hunchback, but now it is much straighter than before. In short, although the appearance has not changed much, but the whole person's image and temperament give people a feeling of extreme confidence. However, the only thing that was a little wrong was that Zhang Xiaoru talked less than before, so much so that when Zhang Xiaoru came back on the first day, Yi Ran even thought that the free tavern was teaching her to practice the silent meditation. It was not until he talked with Le Enjing that he realized that Zhang Xiaoru's talent in the curse of the night elves was too good, and she practiced too fast, which led to an extremely unbalanced power of the healing and curse systems. Now Zhang Xiaoru can't control herself from cursing people as long as she opens her mouth. If she is a little higher than Zhang Xiaoru, it's okay, but if she is a little lower, the curse will take effect very easily. Some time ago, because of Zhang Xiaoru, many low-level drinkers in the free tavern were forced to quit drinking. The reason is that Zhang Xiaoru reminded them to be careful about drinking alcohol and damaging the liver. Then, everyone started to suffer from liver cirrhosis to a greater or lesser extent. In short, no one in the Longguo branch of the Freedom Tavern drinks anymore. Everyone holds a mug of wolfberry, which nourishes the liver and protects the stomach. This has also set off a trend of drinking wolfberry in Tak. Currently, in Tak, the best-selling product is wolfberry tea. The magical butterfly effect always messes up the direction of things. Just when Yi Ran was recalling Le Enjing's complaints, Wang Dakan walked to Zhang Xiaoru's side. Seeing that Zhang Xiaoru didn't talk much, Wang Dakan touched his bald head and made small talk. "Long time no see, Xiaoru." Zhang Xiaoru looked at Wang Dakan and nodded in a friendly manner. Then he looked at Wang Dakan's bald head with some hair with some curiosity. Seemingly noticing Zhang Xiaoru's gaze, Wang Dakan touched his head a little embarrassedly. Xiaoru, you don't understand. The most fashionable thing in our school is bald heads. Many students in our class have shaved their heads. Let me tell you, I'm also following the fashion trend. How about this hairstyle, isn't it handsome?" Zhang Xiaoru still looked well behaved, looking at Wang Dakan with a confused look. Then she smiled and said, "Handsome, I also think you are suitable for a bald head. The bald head you cut is really bright." Hearing this, Yi Ran was startled. His eyes were directly locked on Wang Dakan's forehead. Instantly, Yi Ran could clearly see that the little hair sprouts that Wang Dakan had just grown all fell off. It's just that the hair sprouts are still too small. You can't see them at all if you don't look carefully. At least Wang Dakan didn't feel it. At this time, Wang Dakan was still laughing happily because he heard Zhang Xiaoru's praise for him. Of course, why do I suddenly feel cold in my head? As time passed slowly, more and more people came to the open space on the playground. After a while, all the first-grade participating teams came to the grass. All the participating teams, basically were resting, or whispering within their own classes. The whole lawn was relatively quiet. But it was different on the square outside the lawn. It was full of students cheering for the team. Here, there was also a huge space-time screen, which could clearly see the participating players in the waiting area. The students chattered and discussed the participating players with each other. For a while, the voices were bustling. "Look, here they come, all of them. Mr. Li Shizong's class is really awesome. Zhang Dehua, the top-ranked A-level fire-type superpower, leads the team, and the remaining 3 the third-ranked A-level ice-type psychic, Shuiling the 5th-ranked A-level power-type psychic, Xu Zhuang, and the 6th-ranked Qingshan sword master, Wang Ping. This lineup, Zhou Yu, Wang Zhaojun, Dian Wei, Li Bai are invincible. Quote. What a mess, I told you to do less farm work, but you didn't listen. Li Shizong is indeed the uncrowned king among teachers, the teaching level is really unbeatable. Yes, we have quite a few A-level superpowers in our freshman year. These are the only ones who came out. Look over there, Yin Hai and the others have also come out. Zhang Haoran, Yin Hai, Luo Guo, and Li Si are also 4 gold level. Zhang Haoran ranks 2nd in the grade. Quote. Unlucky. Don't mention this class, it's disgusting to hear about it. There's nothing much to say, I can only say that what the teacher teaches is what the students are. Quote. If this team wins the championship, it will really tarnish the principal's space ring. After hearing these words, the students in Han Kyun's class were all angry but dared not speak out. Han Kyun had that after the incident. Their class became a rat crossing the street, everyone shouted and beat them. And they suffered humiliation. However, the students in their class did follow Han Kyun to bully the weak and fear the strong for a while. And they could only say that the boomerang hit them. It's not unfair. The students were chattering and discussing. Each of them argued for their favorite team and analyzed the situation. Sitting in the second seat at the back, these platinum and diamond masters who had previously besieged the supply department, as well as some respected old teachers. These masters stared at each other with wide eyes. But some people couldn't help, he said. What does Mo Wu mean by this arrangement? He even specially arranged the second seat. What does it mean? According to our level, we can't even go to the rostrum. A freshman assessment, not really. Quote, the supplies department of Mo Wu is really not good enough, even arranging seats is not easy, I don't understand. There are so many seats on the podium, can so many extraordinary people come? Quote, these platinum and diamond masters complained. After all, according to the usual practice, the freshman assessment of a school, they being able to be present was already an honor for the humble family. They had been arranged to sit in the row on the rostrum. But this time, they could not even sit next to the rostrum. They were given a second seat. It really gave these old guys face. Some masters who were straightforward couldn't help but complain. But these were not the main points. After all, they came here not to compete for a seat, but for the legendary genius. Adding to the influence and strength of the principal of the magic and martial arts school. These diamond and platinum masters who should have walked away had to accept this arrangement. In the middle of this meeting, after Huo Wen had just finished complaining about the arrangements of the supply department with his good friends in the Straight Temper Alliance, he looked around, and after seeing Li Shizong, he walked over directly with a swagger. He laughed loudly. Mr. Li, long time no see. Although Li Shizong was teaching the freshmen, he was too old and only had the strength of a gold level. So he did not serve as the team leader this time. With his prestige in the teaching world, he was arranged to sit with these masters at this meeting. After hearing someone calling him, Li Shizong raised his head and saw that it was Huo Wen, the leader of the fire sect. Also bowed politely. Master Huo, long time no see. Huo Wen looked at Li Shizong and said with a smile. Mr. Li has always cared for his students. This is a fact that everyone can see. Don't you agree? On the side, when the masters heard what Huo Wen said, they all responded with a smile. Yes, Mr. Li's attitude of responsibility towards his students is a role model for us. It is amazing that Mr. Li could train 5 diamond level masters. It's not based on luck. Quote, Mr. Li, after the freshman assessment is over, I will ask you to come to our sect to teach those stupid boys. Quote, faced with the flattery of the diamond masters, Li Shizong also responded one by one in a friendly manner. Then he looked at Huo Wen in confusion. He and Huo Wen were just nodding acquaintances, not very familiar. I don't know what Huo Wen meant by suddenly lifting his hand like this. Master Huo, you are too kind. Li Shizong responded to Huo Wen's praise. But Huo Wen grabbed Li Shizong's arm with both hands and helped Li Shizong sit down. This performance made the two people as close as brothers. Mr. Li, it's not strange to be so polite. After all, we have a deep bond. Quote, Li Shizong looked at Huo Wen and was a little confused. Master Huo, you made me a little confused. Looking at Li Shizong's performance, Huo Wen's mouth corners became more proud. Huang Dongdong, this kid is hiding well. He has not been discovered yet. He is worthy of being my chosen disciple. This meticulous mind has the style of my past. While Huo Wen flattered himself, he looked at Li Shizong mysteriously. Mr. Li, to be honest, among your students, there is my disciple. Quote. Ah, this sentence directly shocked Li Shizong. Huo Wen looked at Li Shizong's shocked look. He raised his mouth corners slightly and continued, my disciple is very naughty. He secretly came to school to gain experience without my knowledge. Who knew that he happened to come to your class, Mr. Li? I heard that this time he was selected into the freshman assessment team. Quote. While Huo Wen was speaking, he took out the gift he had prepared from his arms. With a movement that others could not notice, stuffed it into Li Shizong's arms. Speaking of which, I have to thank you, Mr. Li. You taught me well and made me, a bad disciple, change my character. This little gift is not a respect. Quote. Li Shizong listened to Huo Wen's words, and looked at the platinum-level fire crystal in his arms. And fell into deep thought. At this time, Li Shizong's mind was a mess. What the hell? Among his participating students, there are disciples of Huo Wen. That's not right. The resumes of the students who represented his class in the competition this time clearly showed that they were all recruited through the college entrance examination. But seeing Huo Wen's confident demeanor, and he gave him such a big gift right away, he was sure's mind, but a little uncertain. Could it be that Huo Wen has been planning his students to become his disciples since the college entrance examination? But what is he after? Just to see his shocked look now. It is said that Huo Xingzong's behavior is unique, hot-tempered and eccentric. But this is too eccentric. I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. Li Shuizong was puzzled. After a while, he slowly opened his mouth and asked, excuse me, Master Huo, who is your disciple? Looking at Li Shuizong, who has trained 5 diamond masters. Huo Wen was extremely happy. The apprentice he taught played the best teacher at the moment. Doesn't this mean that he played this master teacher in disguise? Huo Wen was complacent and kept it a secret. Don't worry, Master Li, you will know when the assessment starts. Ding! While Huo Wen was keeping the secret, suddenly a crisp bell rang in the air. The bell was not loud, but it could be clearly heard by everyone. The bell seemed to have the magic power to calm people's hearts. Instantly, all the students' discussions stopped. When all the students quieted down, a light female voice came from the space. Students, this freshman exam is about to begin. Now let's welcome our principal, Venerable Zukong, Mr. Bai Shu, with warm applause. The principal is here. Is our freshman exam so grand? The students applauded excitedly. This legendary figure personally attended their freshman exam, which made them feel honored. With a distortion of space, Bai Shu, dressed in white, sat down with a kind smile on his face. Bai Shu sat down. The Diamond and Platinum Grandmasters, who were originally indignant, then calmed down. After all, if Bai Shu sat on the rostrum, they really had no right to sit side by side with Bai Shu. Wow, for a freshman assessment, even the Void Reverend was invited. What a grand show. Since Bai Zushi is here, I have nothing to say. Principal Bai is still so ethereal, and his demeanor is still the same as before. That's what I said, but why do I feel that Principal Bai's eyes are a little bloodshot? That's for the country and the school. Bai Zushi, you are worthy of being a role model for our generation. For a while, many Diamond and Platinum Grandmasters unconsciously respected Bai Shu. However, there are always people who can find the highlights. No, is there only Principal Bai sitting on the rostrum? Yes, there are too many seats on the rostrum. Could it be? Just as everyone's heart skipped a beat, suddenly, the host's voice came again. Now let's welcome the director of the penalty department of Longguo, Taoist Chink, Mr. Zhu Tianhua, with warm applause. As soon as the voice fell, a group of green divine birds flew over, came to the rostrum and turned into a Taoist priest. This person had a hooked nose and a bright gaze, smiled at Bai Shu in a friendly manner, and sat down. Oh my god, Director Zhu is here. He is the boss of the powerful department of Longguo, and one of the core figures of the top family Zhu family. Before everyone could react, the host's voice sounded again. Now let's welcome the Left General of the Longguo military, the iron-blooded Marshal, Mr. Yi Xiaoguo with warm applause. As soon as the voice fell, the seat on the rostrum turned bloody, and when the energy dissipated, a middle-aged man with a majestic face nodded to Bai Shu and sat down directly. This man was wearing a uniform, which was well cut and perfectly fit his strong body. The star emblem on the epaulettes was shining, showing his military exploits and glory. This, the big guy from the military is here too. Before everyone had time to discuss, the host's voice sounded again. Now let's welcome the Flame King, Mr. Zhu Duanjin with warm applause. Then, a flame began to rise on the chair next to Bai Shu. A strong man appeared on the chair. Now let's welcome the Nine Nether Poison Lord, Mr. Yin Shanhai with warm applause. Now let's welcome the Vajra Walker, Mr. Shi Watching with warm applause. With the host the introduction of the person in charge. Whether it was the students or the Diamond and Platinum Masters present, they were completely stunned. In just a short moment, the long rostrum was filled with extraordinary people. The students were so excited. The extraordinary people who could not be seen even if they asked to see them on weekdays. Now they could see them all at once. Regardless of whether this assessment was exciting or not, this scene alone is worth writing into your resume in the future. After all, who can watch the competition on the same stage with more than a dozen extraordinary masters during their student years? And at this moment, the masters were completely quiet. The masters who could not help but complain before, at this moment, did not dare to speak out. Now they just had to beg them. They refused to go up to sit on the rostrum. They all started discussing privately. Isn't this the assessment site for the freshman class of Magic City? Where did this come from? Tomorrow's front page headlines will come out. More than a dozen extraordinary people will gather for the assessment of the freshman class of Magic City. I'm afraid something big is going to happen. Today is probably the safest day in the history of Magic City. The number of extraordinary people who came to the National Friendly Consultation meeting I attended last year was not as high as today's. Don't even mention the meeting. Even the meeting with the Foot Basin country back then was not as good as the one I attended last year. When the war started, there weren't as many people as today. Does the Foot Basin country deserve to call our extraordinary people all together? Today is really an eye-opener. Wait, these extraordinary people are not going to have the same goal as us, right? Someone woke me up with a word. All the Diamond and Platinum Masters in the second place were silenced. Yes, the extraordinary people are not here to join in the fun because they have nothing better to do. If they are really here to compete for geniuses like me, then what are they fighting for? On the rostrum, Bai Shu looked at the guests in a friendly manner and nodded. Since everyone is here, then let's. Before Bai Shu finished speaking, a puff of smoke swept up. Then, a figure shrouded in smoke appeared in front of everyone. It was the Free Tavern, Le Wanyi's aunt, the Lord of Grey Mist, Le Enjing. After seeing the person, all the extraordinary people frowned slightly. Free Tavern. Obviously, the Lord of Grey Mist's arrival was beyond everyone's expectations. The Lord of Grey Mist was shrouded in smoke, and no one could see his true appearance clearly. She didn't say anything, but took out an invitation. Then, the Lord of Grey Mist naturally sat on the rostrum. Bai Shu took the invitation and looked at the Lord of Grey Mist again. After all, he didn't expect that a freshman would be able to invite an extraordinary person to participate. Don't worry, I won't mess around today. The head of the Lord of Grey Mist was still covered with thick fog. The voice was muffled, and it was unclear whether it was a man or a woman. After hearing the Lord of Grey Mist's promise, Bai Shu didn't say much. Other extraordinary people saw the attitude of the organizer Bai Shu, and naturally they wouldn't say anything more. Bai Shu stood up and said to everyone, "Now that everyone is here, I declare that the assessment of the freshman cave is officially started." As soon as Bai Shu finished speaking, he raised his left hand. Instantly, a small space black hole appeared in front of Bai Shu's left hand. From the space black hole, a gem slowly floated out. On this gem, colorful lights shone together. Looking closely, it gave people a feeling of spatial disorder. This is the spatial coordinates of the Eternal Night Demon Cave. As Bai Shu's energy operated, the spatial coordinates of the Eternal Night Demon Cave, with a colorful glow, rushed straight towards the dimensional gate. Gotcha! After a crisp sound, the spatial coordinates perfectly matched on the doorpost of the dimensional gate. At the moment of fit, the colorful light on the spatial coordinates burst out more dazzlingly. And on the doorframe of this dimensional gate, those dense patterns, with the spatial coordinates as the core, began to absorb the energy in the space coordinates without limit. Like a blood vessel filled with blood, it continued to spread. The dimension gate that was originally motionless suddenly glowed with colorful light. Grand and majestic, the momentum swept the whole place. Buzz! A radio-like sound rang out. In the empty door frame of the dimensional door, the space began to distort. The dimensional door leading to the Eternal Night Demon Cave was officially opened. Whether you have seen it or not, teachers and students who have seen it, at this moment, they are still shocked by the miraculous scene. The dimension door of the Eternal Night Demon Cave has been fully opened. Please take the return stone and coordinates and enter the venue as soon as possible. The light female voice sounded again, directly awakening all the participating teachers and students who were still in shock. All the teachers and students entered one after another and sank into the dimensional door. Under the sun, the teachers' the students' backs were stretched out in a long and narrow way. Sitting on the rostrum, Bai Shu sighed slightly after seeing this scene. The backs of these teachers and students reminded him of the past. The human pioneers who opened up the dimensional gate before also entered the dimensional gate one after another to fight in that unknown dimensional world. They fought one after another, shed blood and died. For the prosperity of human civilization. For the continuation of that. The fire of civilization. Bai Shu, I sighed inwardly and muttered to myself. The director of the penalty department, Taoist Chink, Zhu Tianhua, who was sitting next to Bai Shu, looked at Bai Shu and smiled. Bai Zushi, are you recalling the past? Bai Shu smiled when he heard Zhu Tianhua's question. For a moment I just said this out of inspiration. Tianhua, do you remember that we were once part of the conquest of the dimensional world and fought for human civilization? Quote. Zhu Tianhua smiled at Bai Shu's question, raised his head slightly and said with a hint of reminiscence, how can we not remember you and me, and even everyone here? It is not from this dimensional gate that the prosperity of the human race has been forcibly created. Quote. When I was fighting in the dimensional world, I almost died many times. Those life and death battles are still fresh in my memory. Quote. Listen, Zhu Tianhua's memories. Bai Shu looked at Zhu Tianhua deeply. Looked at the teachers and students who entered the gate of the dimension. Said lightly, it's good that you haven't forgotten. In the Eternal Night Demon Cave, 3 dark monsters were holding a bunch of fruits. Lined up, trembling as they walked towards a cave. In the depths of the cave, a big man with a beard, lying on the weeds, crossing his legs. He was bored and ate the fruit that the 3 monsters held above their heads. PFF'd, it's so disgusting. After the big man said that, he kicked the monster out directly. Stop being lazy, pick some delicious food for me. Quote. The remaining 2 monsters ran out directly, fearing I was also kicked. If it weren't for the fear of the magic and martial arts blocking the connection point, no one would be willing to live in it so early. The bearded man looked at the empty cave. The sadness on his face. The light in his eyes. Little one, how long will it take you to come over? There is no internet here, and the food is terrible. I, your uncle, am having a hard time. Just while the bearded uncle was complaining, a bright light appeared above the Eternal Night Demon Cave. As the light flashed, with a sound, an invisible wave spread out above the Eternal Night Demon Cave. In an instant, the heaven and earth began to shake. And a narrow crack appeared in the originally cloudless sky. And from this narrow crack in time and space, countless points of light flew in all directions, located in various locations of the Eternal Night Demon Cave. The bearded man who felt this fluctuation quickly turned over, ran out of the cave, and looked at the scene where the light spots were scattered. With a gleam in his eyes. Ha 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 ha, I finally made your grandfather wait for it. But in a flash, the excited bearded man was stunned. He suddenly thought of another question. So many light spots, which one is the youngest? The bearded man cursed angrily, kicked the stones at his feet to vent his anger. Then ran towards the nearest light spot helplessly. Since I can't tell them apart, I can only use the stupid method to find them one by one. These scattered light spots are the participating teachers and students of the Magic City High Martial Arts Academy who walked into the dimensional gate one by one. After these light spots fell on the ground, all the teachers and students gradually appeared. Everyone raised their spirits and instantly took up their fighting postures. Some people defended, some people observed, and some people set up their staffs. In short, they followed the combat sequence that had been rehearsed before, each doing their own job and waiting for the arrival of danger. On the other side of the dimensional gate, on the lawn, I don't know when a huge screen composed of void energy appeared out of thin air. As the screen flashed a few times, the picture slowly appeared. The huge screen was divided into 18 small screens. Each screen contained a picture of a participating team. Yes, there is a picture. They went in. I saw it, I saw it. I saw our class. The boys in our class are so handsome. The perspective of our class is a bit weird. Who wants to see these men looking up? Hee hee. Jade feet. Jade will only hurt you. Goddess, my goddess, tie them up with your whip, whip them, quickly, quickly. Quote. Your best performance is the competition scene. The teachers and students present chattering. Most of the freshmen were watching the battle scenes of the void dimension for the first time. So they were all quite excited, craning their necks to frantically look for the scenes of their own class. Wait, a team has already encountered monsters. Which one? Which one? The 13th screen, look. All the students present turned their eyes to that screen. At this time, on that screen, 4 students stood back to back, looking around nervously. In the bushes around them, there was a sparse shaking. A pair of eyes flashing with dark blue light, frequently flashing in the bushes. That look, it was as if it was looking at prey. The rustling sound became louder and louder. A 2-meter-tall giant wolf slowly walked out from the bushes. The giant wolf was completely black, with a faint blue light flashing in its eyes. In a hint of dark attribute could be felt between the giant wolf's breaths. It's the Netherworld giant wolf, a dark attribute monster that is unique to the Eternal Night Demon Cave. Some students outside the screen had sharp eyes and had already said that this giant the wolf's name. Is this the Nether giant wolf? I heard that this giant wolf has a dark attribute talent, and its innate magical powers include concealment and silence. A natural assassin. Although it is a D-level beast, it is very powerful in the Dark Night. In the Demon Cave, the combat power must be increased by at least 30%. Quote. I don't know if these guys can do it. Don't worry, a giant ghost wolf is fine. Quote. Who told you that the giant ghost wolf lives alone? Quote. Before the students finished their discussion, on the screen, in the bushes behind the giant wolf, there was another sound. After the sound, 1, 2, 3 people walked out slowly. In less than a moment, more than 10 Netherworld giant wolves have stood out. These giant wolves are very experienced in combat. They stared at the 4 students and slowly circled around. After a while, more than 10 giant wolves they stood apart, surrounded the 4 students in the middle, cut off all the escape routes of the 4 students. After these giant wolves formed a formation, the dark blue light in their eyes became brighter. The bloody gaze fell on the 4 people in front of them without reservation. Their noses even unconsciously sniffed forward, as if they were admiring themselves the smell of meat from the prey that is about to be caught. The 4 students are led by a warrior who wields 2 great swords. At this time, he watched the movements of these giant wolves and instantly understood their intentions. So he shouted loudly, "Be careful, these beasts are going to cut off all our escape routes and then completely annihilate us here." Listening to his speech, the cute and adorable girl behind him, the girl looked at the giant wolves nervously and asked, "What should we do, squad leader?" Although this squad leader was also in actual combat for the first time, he was relatively calm overall. He looked at the giant wolves in front of him and analyzed Judge. Instantly found the weak spot of these giant wolves. Then he pointed his sword in that direction and said to his teammates behind him, "Follow me closely, we charge in this direction, believe me, I can definitely break through the siege." As the squad leader spoke, he held the sword in both hands, and the giant sword emitted white holy light. He rushed directly towards the weakest nether wolf. B-level superpower, Holy Charge. The white holy light enveloped the squad leader, and the surging momentum carried the determination to kill. The target was directly aimed at the head of the nether giant wolf. Roar! With the low roar of the nether giant wolf, many giant wolves, a faint blue light flashed in his eyes. Instantly, the white light on the squad leader's body weakened a little. This is one of the innate magical powers of the nether wolf, silence. It is one of the cursed skills. It can offset or even interrupt all abilities being used. When the white holy light on the monitor was about to disappear, suddenly, the delicate girl opened her hands slightly. The curse power on the monitor was directly eliminated. B-level ability, cleansing water. The white holy light rose again. Bang! The white giant sword flashing with holy light hit the head of the weak nether giant wolf. The giant wolf was caught off guard and had its head blasted by the giant sword. Congratulations, Grade 1, Class 7, for killing a silver-level monster and getting 100 points. The graceful female voice sounded again. The students outside the field cheers. Ha ha ha, awesome. This is much more exciting than the usual tests and showdowns. These netherworld wolves look scary, but they don't seem that hard to kill in reality. There is still a huge gap between the wisdom of animals and humans. On the screen, the students of Grade 1 Class 5 killed the weakest nether wolf. The weakest point has been hit. If they continue to charge, they can 100% escape from the encirclement. However, the squad leader who had just rushed out stopped. Squad leader, why don't you run? Listening to his companion's questions, the squad leader grinned. Why should we run away? I think our strength should be more than enough to deal with these nether giant wolves. The squad leader raised his giant sword again, with holy light on his body. Continue with the formation we practiced before. We will cooperate with each other and kill all these demon wolves. This time we will take the first place in the grade. As if they were encouraged by the squad leader, the students nodded excitedly. Okay, squad leader. Finally, the 4 people killed a surprise attack and entered the encirclement of the giant wolves again. The 4 people cooperated with ease. For a while, they fought back and forth with these giant wolves and did not lose the wind. However, these giant wolves took turns to come forward to test and harass, and none of them fought hard. Although there was a back and forth fight for a while, there were no casualties. Not only that, while these giant wolves were fighting, their eyes actually showed a little human smile, which seemed like a conspiracy had succeeded. On the rostrum, all the extraordinary people looked at the 4 students' counterattack. Some of them shook their heads. Even Bai Shu sighed slightly. You are still too young. Come on, hold on. Those points will be in our pockets sooner or later. Quote. This monitor still encouraging his companions. The giant wolf fought back and forth with them, but did not hurt him at all. This made the squad leader's self-confidence reach the point of bursting. Just when all the team members were confidently looking forward to the points, suddenly, a black giant wolf appeared behind the squad leader without any sign. This giant wolf was pitch black and about 4 meters tall. The whole body was more than twice as big as the previous nether giant wolves. How could there be no leader in a group of people living together? This is the wolf king of these nether giant wolves. Jen Hang has mastered the second talent of the nether giant wolf, the hidden wolf king. Before anyone could react, the wolf king had opened his bloody mouth and bit the monitor's neck directly. The holy light could not resist the amazing bite force at all, and was directly bitten to pieces by the wolf king's mouth. When the giant wolf's teeth had already touched his neck, the 2 teachers who had been hiding suddenly appeared directly, and used their abilities to drive away the giant wolves. The monitor, who realized it late, had collapsed on the ground in fear. Looking at the backs of the giant wolves leaving, he saw the look of his teacher, who was disappointed in him. At this time, he slowly lowered his head. Humph! Rushing forward, the teacher snorted coldly and disappeared from the spot. The first grade Class 7 was completely wiped out, and the total score was 100 points. The cold female voice sounded again. At this moment, all the students on the lawn were silent. There was a trace of fear in their eyes. It was true that the monitor was greedy for merit and reckless. But the students had never thought that these low-level monsters would have the strategic idea of showing weakness to the enemy and killing them secretly. This completely shocked the students who had not yet left the school. If it was me just now, would I have survived? Most of them seemed to have a negative answer in their hearts. And the situation faced by the monitor was the danger they would face after graduation. At this moment, everyone's heart was heavy. On this road, they had the concept of life and death for the first time. It was also the first time that they had some understanding of the cruelty in the dimensional gate. The first grade class 6 was completely defeated, and the total score was 100 points. The first grade class 8 was completely defeated, and the total score was 10 points. The first grade class 10 was completely defeated, and the total score was 300 points. Time passed by minute. The cold female voice kept sending the assessment information report. It seemed that none of them was a good news. Every piece of information hit every student's heart very heavily. In this short period of less than half an hour, it has nearly 8 classes were completely wiped out and withdrew from the Demon Cave hunting assessment. They were eliminated in various ways, including hunting, knocking out, suicide, and binding. Students even saw some of the class assessment teams on the screen. Because the teacher did not rescue them in time, some of the students were seriously injured, and several students died on the spot. The bloody and seriously injured death stimulated the nerves of all the students present. Even some timid students were sobbing softly. After all, these scenes in front of them are the journey they will embark on after graduation. The flowers in the ivory tower finally felt the storm outside at this moment. All the masters and extraordinary people on the rostrum in the second seat. After seeing this scene, all had blank expressions on their faces, no one was moved. Because this is the meaning of the Demon Cave assessment. These young men, only by facing the great terror between life and death. Will they truly temper their courageous hearts? Will they be truly qualified to become the seeds of the continuation of human civilization? Will they be qualified to be supported by those humans who have no superpowers and cultivation talents and can only work hard to cultivate? It is a good thing for these students to be exposed to these facts early. Congratulations, Class 1, Grade 1, killed 4 gold level monsters and earned 4,000 points. Congratulations, Class 1, Grade 1, killed 12 silver level monsters and earned 1,200 points. Congratulations, Class 1, Grade 1, killed 36 bronze level monsters and earned 360 points. Suddenly, a cold female voice sounded again. This series of information broadcasts directly shocked the silent students present. Everyone's eyes turned to the screen again. Class 1, Grade 1. This Class 1 is the one with the class of Li Shizong, who is known as the teacher of teachers. At this time, the assessment team of Class 1, Grade 1, is standing on a piece of grass. On the grass, there is still a raging fire. In the flames, you can vaguely see a few chickens that are about to be burned to ashes. These chickens are huge, about the height of a person. Is this the nest of the Shadow Black Chicken? Shadow Black Chicken, B-level monster. I heard that it is extremely powerful. When the teacher gave instructions, he also said that if you encounter this group, you should run away quickly. I didn't expect that Class 1, Grade 1, would actually. I didn't expect them to kill all the black chickens. Awesome. At this time, Zhang Dehua, the leader of the first grade class, looked at the black chickens that were burned to ashes. Class leader, we've finished dealing with them. Behind him, Xu Zhuang, the A-level power psychic, was carrying a sack of black chicken gizzards, and said with a smile. This time it's a big harvest, we've wiped them out in one fell swoop. Shuilinger on the side also said with a smile. Zhang Dehua looked at the two of them, and then said in confusion, where's Wang Ping? On the side Xu Zhuang pointed to the direction of the chicken coop helplessly. Wang Ping said he was going to wipe out the roots. Haven't they all been killed? What is he doing? Zhang Dehua asked again in confusion. Xu Zhuang looked at Zhang Dehua awkwardly and said, Wang Ping is going to shake all the black eggs before leaving. After hearing this, Zhang Dehua couldn't help but twitch his mouth. After a long time, he said, Qingshan sword sect is known for its cruelty, it's right. On the second stage, at this time, Li Shizong straightened his back and raised his head. Quite a few. After all, when everyone was defeated, the students he taught stood up. Not only that, but also fought a beautiful battle without injury. This record is really worth being proud of. For a while, the masters who were familiar with Li Shizong all responded. Mr. Li, your style is still as good as before. Great, Mr. Li, it seems that you will create a few more masters. Mr. Li knows whether he is good or not as soon as he makes a move. This teaching level is simply incomparable to other classes. Mr. Li, my Qingshan sword sect owes you a big favor. Li Shizong was proud of the master's shouting, but he still responded modestly one by one. But Huo Wen, who was sitting next to Li Shizong, was confused at this time. What's going on? Is this Li Shizong's class? Then where is Huang Dongdong? For a moment, Huo Wen had a bad feeling in his heart. Seeing Huo Wen's dullness, Li Shizong asked tentatively. So, Master Huo, your direct disciple is not Zhang Dehua, right? Hearing Li Shizong's question, Huo Wen's mouth twitched. It seems that I really made a mistake. What should I do? The gift has been given. Isn't this little fool in Li Shizong's class? Huo Wen was too embarrassed to ask for the gift back, so he could only smile awkwardly. Then he asked in a low voice. Mr. Li, I think I made a mistake. My bad disciple is called Huang Dongdong. Have you heard of him? After hearing the name Huang Dongdong, Li Shizong's eyes widened. Are you sure your disciple is called Huang Dongdong? Huo Wen nodded. Of course, and according to my disciple's reply, he should have entered a good class. Listening to Huo Wen's words, Li Shizong took a deep breath, then pointed to the top of the screen. Master Huo, take a look, is the student in the second class of the first grade your favorite disciple? After all, the head teacher had seen the list of assessments. Li Shizong naturally remembered that there was a student named Huang Dongdong in the second class of the first grade. At this time, Huo Wen looked in the direction of Li Shizong's finger, and naturally saw a short figure. Why is he bald? After a closer look, no, this is his beloved disciple. He said loudly, yes, that's my disciple. Huo Wen grinned. It felt like he was introducing his son to his relatives during the Spring Festival Gala. Since the first grade class is so strong, I think the second grade class should be good too. My beloved disciple still makes me proud. Mr. Li, the second class should be good too. Huo Wen was still complacent. And Li Shizong looked at Huo Wen with a complicated expression, and he was a little speechless. Mr. Li, seeing that Li Shizong didn't say anything, Huo Wen stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Li Shizong's eyes. Li Shizong looked at Huo Wen in silence. Seeing that Huo Wen insisted on asking, Li Shizong didn't, there was no other way, so he had to speak out the whole story. To be honest, Master Huo, Class 2 of Grade 1 is the last ranked class in our freshman year. Boom! Li Shizong's words were like a bolt from the blue. Huo Wen was blasted to a crisp. He pointed at the screen and asked incredulously. What did you say? Li Shizong looked at Huo Wen and felt a little sorry. Maybe you, my beloved disciple, just wants to rest for a while. Children are always naughty, Li Shizong said, while reluctantly touching the platinum level fire crystal core in his pocket. Was hesitating whether to return the platinum level fire crystal core that Huo Wen gave him. Puff! In the second seat, someone suddenly couldn't help, he smiled. Who is laughing? Huo Wen was like a lit firecracker. Turning his head, his eyes scanning like a radar. But everyone he looked at had a stifled smile in their eyes. I couldn't find the master who was laughing secretly. For a moment, he sat down dejectedly again. I thought Huang Dongdong was holding back a big one. Who would have thought that he had a big bowel movement? When I thought about how I was just so, he loudly asked Li Shizong to answer. Huo Wen's old face turned red. At this moment, he felt very uncomfortable, and his nose was red from anger. He looked a bit like a famous Gotham comedian. On the screen, Yi Ran's team landed on the Eternal Night Mountain Range. Unlike other teams, Wang Dakin and his team walked too leisurely. Because here, they didn't see any monsters. Even though there were not even a few ants to be seen. It seemed as if they were the only people in the entire Evernight Mountain Range. It was terrifyingly quiet. The four of them walked along the road in the Evernight Mountain Range, wandering around, while other classes were experiencing fighting for life and death. While their class was like on a picnic in the wild. After a while, Huang Dongdong couldn't help but he stopped. He took a deep breath and shouted, "Is there anyone there?" Huang Dongdong's voice was so loud that the surrounding grass and trees were shaking. In response to him, there was only his own echo. At this moment, Huang Dongdong couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. He had just tempered the Samadhi True Fire golden body and really wanted to show it off. But when he came here, he couldn't even see a ghost. It felt like a hero with no place to use his skills. The anger was gathered in his heart. Huang Dongdong was so angry that his mouth bulged. Dongdong, stop shouting. It won't work if you shout until your throat is broken. There will be people. Do you know why? Quote. Wang Dakan looked at the angry Huang Dongdong and said with a smile. Huang Dongdong looked at Wang Dakan in confusion. Why do you say? Wang Dakan said, because the magic cave only produces monsters, it won't give birth, hee. As soon as Wang Dakan finished speaking, the other three people couldn't help but shudder. Huang Dongdong looked at Wang Dakan speechlessly. Dakan, this joke is not funny. Quote. Oh, really? I thought about it for a long time. Wang Dakan touched his bald head honestly. The 4 outing teams continued to patrol in the mountains. Yi Ran, who was observing from the dark, looked at the situation of his team. Also frowned slightly. This shouldn't be the case. The Eternal Night Mountain Range was one of the permanent residences of the Eternal Night Demon God in the Eternal Night Demon Cave. Is this the place? The place with the most spiritual energy in the world. Not only that, after a long period of transformation and upgrading by the Eternal Night Demon, Eternal Night Mountain can be said to be the place with the most demonic energy and spiritual energy. Even if some ordinary creatures stay in this place for a long time, they will also evolve and upgrade unconsciously and become monsters. But now, why can't my team encounter any monsters? For a moment, Yi Ran looked at Lan Moyan. Did he make a move? Lan Moyan was extremely sensitive to Yi Ran's gaze. He waved his hand symbolically, indicating that it is not. Good guy, are you too lazy to hide now? Looking at Lan Moyan's actions, Yi Ran silently complained about this country-killing supernatural person. Then, Yi Ran frowned. Since it was not Lan Moyan who took action, why are there no monsters here? Something must be wrong when things are abnormal. For a moment, he remembered the last words that Duobao said when he left him. Strange, fellow Taoist, why does this Eternal Night Demon Cave give me a different feeling than before? Looking at the picture of Class 2, Grade 1. Others didn't think there was anything. But all the people on the rostrum couldn't sit still. At this moment, all the supernatural people outside the field looked at each other. The shock in their eyes could no longer be hidden. Especially Zhu Tianhua next to Bai Shu. His eyes were not only shocked, but his eyebrows were slightly wrinkled. He adjusted his mood, turned around and asked Bai Shu uncertainly. Who is that? Bai Shu nodded helplessly. Yes, it's Lan Moyan himself. Looking at Bai Shu's confirmation, all the extraordinary people took a breath of cold air. Because Lan Moyan is relatively young and doesn't like to attend big occasions. Many ordinary people below the extraordinary level don't know this giant. But as extraordinary people, how could they not have seen the offensive heavy weapon, the sword that kills the throat, the style of the Dragon Kingdom Sword God? Bai Zushi, isn't it a bit illegal? Zhu Tianhua frowned. If it was Lan Moyan, if Yan is present, many things will be difficult to handle. Bai Shu turned his head and looked at Zhu Tianhua helplessly. Don't look at me like that. Lan Moyan's age and education are completely in line with the recruitment restrictions of Longguo Magic and Martial Arts University. I have no reason to stop him from going to school. Bai Shu thought about it for a while, and couldn't help but add a complaint. Really, who would have thought that he actually has the exam results and high school diploma? Since he has a high school diploma and exam results, with Lan Moyan's talent standard, do you think the talent standard of special recruitment can stop this Dragon Kingdom Sword God? Bai Shu's words made Zhu Tianhua choke. After thinking for a long time, he still couldn't think of a reason to refute. The expressions of the extraordinary people behind him were also a little strange. Although Lan Moyan met all the regulations, but a national-level extraordinary person went to be a freshman. It doesn't seem right no matter how you look at it. After hearing Bai Shu say this, Zhu Tianhua also pondered for a while. Put it aside. After all, he is a top boss, and he still has some skills to cultivate his qi. Since there has been an accident, we can only deal with it later. In another place in the Eternal Night Demon Cave, a tiny space crack opened. A group of tall creatures walked out of it. These tall creatures, with enchanting figures and revealing clothes, are human-like but not human. If someone sees them, they will definitely exclaim, "When will the succubus be born in the eternal night demon cave?" These succubus twisted their bodies in an extremely exaggerated way. The leading succubus spoke in human language. "Go to the eternal night ridge as soon as possible, there are still many things to arrange." "Okay, doll demon king. Call me sister." "Okay, doll demon king sister." Quote. Who would have thought that the leader of these succubus is actually a diamond-level demon king? I can't stand it anymore. Let's go outside the mountains. After walking for half a day, Huang Dongdong finally couldn't stand the loneliness. He glanced at Wang Dakan. Wang Dakan said with some embarrassment, "Is this stable or not?" Huang Dongdong retorted, "What do you mean by stable? Is it stable if you don't kill anyone? When the assessment is over, other classes will have thousands or tens of thousands of points. Are we going to get 0 points?" Hearing Huang Dongdong's words, Wang Dakan he was a little shaken in his heart. Huang Dongdong struck while the iron was hot and added another sentence. "Dakan, I believe you don't want Teacher Yi to be eliminated at the last place. Don't worry, we are just hunting near the mountains, so why not run around?" Listening to Huang Dongdong's words, Wang Dakan felt that this was the truth. He then turned his head and looked at Zhang Xiaoru and Lan Moyan. "I think what Huang Dongdong said makes sense, what do you think?" Zhang Xiaoru was still silent. "I will listen to the class monitor." Lan Moyan also nodded to show her agreement. Wang Dakan saw that everyone agreed. So he said, "Well, then let's leave Yongye Mountain and earn points for the teacher." Then, the 4 people left Yongye Mountain at a very fast speed. Yi Ran, who was in a secret place, looked at this scene, shook his head helplessly, and then followed. The 4 people just left the mountain. Roar. A huge roar directly attracted the attention of the 4 people. Before the 4 people turned around, a huge gorilla had jumped in front of the 4 people. With a strong impact, the ground shook 3 times. This gorilla is extremely fierce. With white hair. There seems to be lightning flashing in his eyes. When a pair of giant hands knocked on the chest, it actually made a sound like thunder. It made people's eardrums numb. Is this a thundering giant ape? A-level monster. Not only an A-level beast, it is also one of the kings among A-level beasts, and it is the absolute overlord in the A-level lightning field. Look carefully, the hair on the head of the giant ape has begun to turn into lightning. This giant ape has reached the edge of enlightenment. Wow, in other words, this is a half-step platinum thundering giant ape. Finish. What kind of luck does Class 2 have? They encountered such a creature right after leaving the Evernight Mountains. Quote, I heard that Class 2 only has one teacher leading the team this time. Is it Teacher Yi? I heard that he had defeated that platinum beast before, so it should be no problem to deal with this giant ape. It's hard to say. I heard that they took advantage of defeating Han Kyun at that time, because Han Kyun's ability could not work on Teacher Yi. It's not certain when facing this monster. Teacher Yi's current strength should be inferior to the thunder giant ape in front of him. If he can't take advantage. And even if Teacher Yi can beat it, it's just barely. How can he guarantee the safety of his students? Quote, pinch the stone back. It's better to get 0 points than to die. The classmates looked at the contestants of Class 2 with pity. Even Huo Wen looked at the screen with some worry. Although he was a little angry about Huang Dongdong's choice, he was still very worried about Huang Dongdong's safety. The thundering giant ape roared wildly at the 4 tiny creatures in front of him, seemingly angry at the behavior of trespassing into his territory, with murderous intent in his eyes. And the 4 tiny creatures in front of him did not tremble and lower their heads like the usual creatures. Instead, facing his roar, they all looked at him with interest. Even the shortest one was eager to start moving his fists and feet. Roar! The thundering giant ape roared again in disbelief. This time, the shortest one digs his ears disdainfully, and actually gave him the middle finger. Huang Dongdong, what are you doing? Put your hands down. After seeing this scene, Huo Wen, who was outside the field, felt his heart almost in his throat. In his opinion, Huang Dongdong's strength had just reached the late golden stage, and was not even close to the thunder giant ape who had already begun to realize the truth. In addition, the thunder giant ape was an A. The powerful talent of the A-level monster. Huo Wen was afraid that his apprentice would be destroyed in one encounter. At this time, Huang Dongdong naturally could not hear his master's call. After he gave the middle finger, he turned his head and said to everyone, "Everyone step back and watch my performance." Hearing Huang Dongdong say this, all the teachers and students outside the field were stunned. What's going on? Is this little guy going to fight alone? Isn't he overestimating himself? My goodness, this is a half-step platinum monster, and it is also one of the top existences in the A level. Is he crazy? Is this little guy's strength really about the same as this thundering giant ape? What are you thinking? With this kind of strength, can he teach in the second class of the first grade? Quote. This kid is too arrogant. What are you arrogant about? When the time comes, the thundering giant ape will shatter the hero's dream with 3 hammers. I'm afraid that it's not just Yingxiang Meng who will be dispersed. Don't worry, he's not the leader, and no one will go crazy with him. Huo Wen looked at this scene, his heart was completely hanging. And he murmured to himself, comforting himself. Yes, you're right, it's okay if one person makes a fool of himself, but others will definitely not do that. However, in the picture, after Wang Dakan and the other 2 heard Huang Dongdong's request to retreat, they nodded thoughtfully, and then said to the other 2 people, "Everyone stand apart, retreat hundreds of meters, and surround this ape." So, the 3 retreated hundreds of meters in different directions, forming a pincer attack, surrounding Huang Dongdong and the thunder giant ape in the middle, leaving the huge venue empty for Huang Dongdong to perform. At this moment, Huo Wen's heart, which had been hanging, was completely dead. Isn't it that there is such a leader? My beloved disciple, what's wrong with you? Didn't you say you would avoid arrogance and impatience? You just did that. If it wasn't for the fact that the space gate couldn't be crossed again in a short time after it was opened. At this moment, Huo Wen wanted to dive in. For a moment, Huo Wen closed his eyes, unable to bear to look at the scene again. After seeing this scene, Li Shizong on the side finally gritted his teeth, took out the fire crystal core from his trouser pocket, and stuffed it into Huo Wen's hand. Master Huo, think more positively, maybe your beloved disciple can escape. In the picture, Huang Dongdong looked at Wang Dakan and others with satisfaction as they retreated. He walked to the giant ape alone, looking at the thundering giant ape that was 30,100 heads taller than him. He started to warm up seriously. At this moment, the thundering giant ape, looking at the tiny dwarf in front of him, was completely confused. What was going on? Why wasn't this little thing afraid of him? When he thought of this, the thundering giant ape felt that his dignity was insulted. He was about to roar, but he heard a roar louder than his own. Stop making so much noise, try to roar again. Although Huang Dongdong was small, but this roar used the power of Dantian, and directly suppressed the thundering giant ape. The thundering giant ape just waited for Huang Dongdong to finish warming up. Huang Dongdong looked up at the behemoth, and his mouth slightly raised. What a great sparring partner. Then I won't be polite. After saying that, Huang Dongdong's eyes were stern. The temperature in the air suddenly rose. Countless fire elements began to expand and gather crazily. Suddenly, a loud shout exploded out of thin air. Fire An. The sound of the explosion was so loud that it made the fire element in the air explode. As the sound exploded, the fire element floating in the space became completely violent. The clear sky, which was originally cloudless, was already dyed red. The violent fire element gathered madly towards Huang Dongdong. In a moment, Huang Dongdong's whole body was wrapped by the fire element. At this moment, Huang Dongdong seemed like a golden ball that was burning red. The temperature of the entire space suddenly rose. This surging heat, the thunder giant ape standing in front of Huang Dongdong felt it most. At this time, the thunder giant ape felt that his hair was faintly burnt. The thunder giant ape looked at the golden red ball in front of him. The instinct of the beast made it keenly feel that in this golden red ball, the threat that was enough to harm life was constantly emitted. Roar. I don't know if it was out of fear in my heart or out of provocation. Angry. The thunder giant ape roared at the golden red ball. With the thunder giant ape's roar, all the hair on its body stood up straight like steel needles. Countless electric currents, like thunder dragons, began to wrap around the thunder giant ape's huge body, especially the tuft of white hair on the thunder giant ape's head. With the thunder giant ape's breath, the terrifying lightning element kept flashing, and it had vaguely turned into the shape of lightning. The surging lightning factor, with the thunder giant ape as the center, continued to expand outward, frantically rubbing against the exploding fire element. For a moment, the two sides were evenly matched. The entire space, with the middle point between Huang Dongdong and the thunder giant ape as the dividing line, divided into two colors, red and blue. The violent elements tore and rubbed. Lightning and thunder, raging flames. It was like a purgatory scene. Outside the screen, the students were all shocked by this scene. We haven't fought yet, is it enough to just fight against the air with momentum? Awesome, at this rate, even if we can't beat the thunder giant ape, at least our whole body and retreating is really no problem. Quote. Wow, I thought this guy was just pretending, but I didn't expect he was really powerful. Quote. Who is that little guy? How could he be so powerful? Quote. I've never heard of this little guy. When did we hide such a monster in our freshman year? On the second stage, many Diamond Masters looked at the scene on the screen with some surprise on their faces. Huang Dongdong's strength can actually compete with this thundering giant ape, which means he is already at the half-step platinum level at such a young age. What kind of monster is this? At this moment, their eyes looking at Huo Wen are no longer full of ridicule. On the contrary, they have begun to have a hint of jealousy. Where did this rough guy get such a good seedling? At this moment, Huo Wen was as shocked as any of them. What the hell? Did I travel through time? Wasn't Huang Dongdong just in the late gold stage in my impression? How come after just a few days of not seeing him, he can already compete with the half-step platinum monster? Li Shizong, who was standing next to Huo Wen, also looked at the screen, and looked at the platinum level fire crystal core in Huo Wen's hand. He was bleeding. MD, it's too early. He looked at Huo Wen with some resentment. Now he suspected that Huo Wen wanted to get the crystal core back, and deliberately acted very nervous before. For a moment, Li Shizong cupped his hands, looked at Huo Wen and said sarcastically. Master Huo's expression is really on point, and he fooled me. With such a talented youngster, what is there for Master Huo to worry about? Quote. Huo Wen looked at Li Shuizong and touched his head awkwardly. Ah, I didn't expect that. I really didn't know that the stinky boy's strength had reached this level. Listening to Huo Wen's words, Li Shuizong was furious. Why, Master Huo still has something to hide now. Quote. Huo Wen was a straightforward person. Seeing Li Shuizong say this, he began to say anxiously. Really, when that kid was driven out by me, he was just in the late golden stage. Quote. Hearing this, all the masters present shook their heads. Late golden age. Don't believe it, Li Shuizong said angrily. Could it be that Master Huo wants to tell us that your beloved disciple suddenly soared to the current strength after studying in that lazy class? Quote. A word awakens the dreamer. Li Shuizong's angry words made Huo Wen stunned. For a moment, he recalled the messages Huang Dongdong left him before. No way. On the screen, the thunder giant ape saw that it was impossible to suppress the short and fat man in front of it. For a moment, he angrily beat his chest. Roar. Quote. With the roar of the thunder giant ape, the blue-white lightning directly poured into the body of the thunder giant ape. The thunder giant ape, which was already tall and fierce, now grew 3 times bigger, especially the pair of strong and powerful arms. With the blessing of the power of thunder, it was full of terrifying energy. Wherever it passed, there would be thunderous explosions. The innate magical power, the wrath of thunder. Roar. The thunder giant ape stared at the golden red fireball in front of it. The huge figure disappeared directly. The next second, the thunder giant ape flew directly above Huang Dongdong. It leaned down, with its fist as its head, carrying the wrath of thunder. Like a thunder dragon descending to the world, it smashed towards Huang Dongdong. The surging power broke all the surrounding trees. Be careful. Quote. Huo Wen's heart outside the field was concerned about Huang Dongdong in the middle of the screen. He couldn't help but exclaimed. Boom. The thunder giant ape's fist hit Huang Dongdong's head directly. The powerful force made the whole ground tremble. Countless soils surged, lightning spread wantonly. The whole land turned into scorched earth. The cracks were centered on Huangdongdong, split apart, forming a terrifying spider web with a radius of nearly 500 meters. At this moment, whether it was a student or a master, they all focused on the dust, anxiously waiting for the result of the violent attack. And in the center of the scorched earth, the golden red energy began to expand without limit. The surging fire element rose up in flames on the cracked ground, like a totem of the devil's descent. Good boy. Quote. Suddenly, on the rostrum, the Flame King, Zhu Duanjin, stood up directly. This Tuguo-level extraordinary shouted excitedly, with a loud voice, which made everyone's eardrums hurt, especially the undisguised ultimate fire, which made some students with weaker strength feel a burning pain in their bodies. Old Zhu, please be patient. Bai Shu on the side counted helplessly. The invisible force of space isolated the momentum emitted by Zhu Duanjin. Zhu Duanjin heard Bai Shu's words, turned his head. His eyes widened. Please be patient, old Bai, I haven't settled the score with you for trapping me last time. Now my successor has appeared. How can you ask me to be patient? Quote. As Zhu Duanjin finished speaking, the dust and fog on the screen also dissipated completely. At this moment, the thundering giant ape still had one fist pointing downwards, but the fierceness in his eyes was gone, only surprise and confusion. At this moment, under the fist of the thundering giant ape, a thin arm supported upwards, actually holding the hill-like thundering giant ape on top of his head. Little monkey is really strong, now it's your little master's turn. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.